Chapter 24. Seeing Yang Qing and Long Lin arrive, he whispered, "I need to prepare something for the Hongming cloak. Go get it for me. Remember, come back before nightfall." Lin Yu said 3 names and locations, and the 3 nodded at the same time. After today's battle, they were extremely impressed with Lin Yu's leadership. Naturally, they wouldn't object. Qin Ji looked over and saw that Yang Qing, Long Lin, and Lu Wuhan had already disappeared. The rest of the disciples had already surrounded Xian Yu and the elders. Xian Yu was also indulging in his righteous speech, which made the other disciples even more excited. Qin Ji left the crowd and asked Lin Yu, "Looks like you have a new idea." Lin Yu shrugged. "The Hongming cloak is very important. The forgotten immortal sect needs more preparation now." Qin Ji looked like she was rushing to the market. "Thank you." Lin Yu smiled and said to Qin Ji, "I need a few things." He said a few names and Qin Ji frowned. "These are all dead people's items." "Why?" "These are for the Hongming cloak. When the time comes, these things can help me deceive everyone." After Lin Yu finished speaking, Qin Ji was still confused. After Qin Ji and the others left, Sword Fanatic finally dared to walk over. "Little Holy King, what about me?" Lin Yu smiled faintly. "Why don't you stay with me?" Sword Fanatic lowered his head shyly. Lin Yu smiled. "I need to go into seclusion for a few hours. You can protect me." Sword Fanatic nodded immediately. Lin Yu said again, "But I'm going into seclusion at the Supreme Clarity Pool. You can just wait for me there." After all, this was Qin Ji's territory. Although Lin Yu already had the authority to enter and exit the pool freely, he still informed Qin Ji. The pool was shrouded in mist. It was Sword Fanatic's first time here. He stood 20 feet away and didn't go near the pool. Lin Yu walked to the side of the clear pool and frowned slightly. Sure enough, the mist suddenly dispersed a little and 2 fair arms wrapped around him. "I heard that you slapped the Crimson Heaven Pavilion's face today. How awe-inspiring." Qin Yi's face was flushed red. Obviously, she had been hiding here for a while. "Qin Ji told you?" Lin Yu smiled. Qin Yi knew that Lin Yu wasn't talking about the Crimson Heaven Pavilion. She stuck out her tongue and said, "Mother told me not to come here for the time being. She said that you had something to do and needed to go into seclusion at the Supreme Clear Pond." Qin Yi said unhappily, "Who knew that you brought my best friend here to fool around?" Lin Yu shrugged. "Are you jealous of me? Who would be jealous of a bad guy like you?" Although Qin Yi said this, her jade arms tightened around Lin Yu, and she forcefully pulled him into the pool. There was a plop. Sword Addict couldn't see the scene in the mist and asked worriedly, "Little Holy King, are you all right?" Lin Yu smiled. "I'm fine." Qin Yi covered his mouth as soon as he finished speaking. 4 hours later, Qin Yi lay limp beside the pool. "You're getting stronger and stronger." Lin Yu smiled. "All right, I have other things to do." Qin Yi nodded obediently, put on her clothes, and snuck away from the other side of the pool. Only then did Lin Yu open the dead man's storage ring and throw all the glory bot into the Supreme Clear Pool. What he needed to do was to completely break through his constitution. His constitution was now at the peak of the 9th level of the spirit realm. He was only a little bit away from the salvation realm. There was a world of difference between a spirit realm constitution and the salvation realm constitution. The salvation realm constitution was equivalent to the glory chi cultivation of the salvation realm. Lin Yu already had the glory chi cultivation of the reincarnation realm. As long as he broke through his constitution and cultivated both elements, his overall combat strength would be close to the peak of the reincarnation realm. Break. As soon as Lin Yu finished speaking, all 500,000 glory bot were crushed into powder and poured into the pool. Lin Yu then poured all the herbs in Gu Yao's storage ring into the pool. Plop, plop. The pool immediately began to churn like boiling water. At this moment, Lin Yu felt that the pain in his body intensified several times. Not bad. He nodded in satisfaction, closed his eyes, and continued to absorb the extremely rich pool. Another 2 hours passed. Sword Addict looked up at the sky from outside and saw the clouds surging as bolts of lightning began to gather. Tribulation? Sword Addict suddenly thought of this and was both surprised and delighted. She was delighted because Lin Yu should have broken through, but she was shocked because the lightning was extremely violent. Once it fell, it would probably hurt Lin Yu. Rumble! The lightning circled and aimed at the pool. Sword Addict didn't dare to think too much. She unsheathed the Crimson Moon sword and took a step forward. The moment the lightning struck, the 10th move of the heavenly derivation sword technique was already in the air. Sword chi and lightning clashed in the air. Bang! Bang! Sword Addict spat out a mouthful of blood. She was bathed in the lightning and felt her body being torn apart. The rest of the forgotten immortal sect also looked over. Tribulation? Who's undergoing tribulation? Such a lightning tribulation. Did he break through to the reincarnation realm? Naturally, they could only see the lightning, but they couldn't see clearly that Sword Addict's aura was weakening as she fell down. In the pool, when Lin Yu opened his eyes, his bones and meridians creaked. An unprecedented power had already swam through his body. Lin Yu slowly looked up and saw that Sword Addict had reached her limit. His figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already beside Sword Addict and hugged her waist. After being injured by the lightning, Sword Addict opened her eyes with difficulty and saw that Lin Yu had saved her. Little Sacred King! Be careful! Sword Addict suddenly saw another lightning strike and immediately shouted worriedly. Lin Yu didn't even turn his head and casually punched. In an instant, the space cracked and the lightning shattered when it came within 3 feet of Lin Yu. The clouds dispersed, and Lin Yu placed Sword Addict beside the pool. Hold your breath and focus. I'll help you break through to the second realm of sword cultivation. Sword Addict was overjoyed. She didn't expect Lin Yu to think that she could break through in her current state. The power of lightning is the best nourishment for cultivating sword chi. Lin Yu said again. Sword Addict had already closed her eyes. Lin Yu pressed her back, and the Salvation Realm's chi and blood merged into her body, constantly guiding the remaining lightning. Sword Addict only felt unbearable pain in her 8 extraordinary meridians, and subconsciously held Lin Yu's arm. 4 hours later, the pain slowly disappeared. When Sword Addict opened her eyes, she felt that the sword chi in her body was dozens of times more abundant. Little Sacred King, Sword Addict was very excited, but when she looked at Lin Yu, her face flushed red, and she shyly turned her head away. Lin Yu coughed dryly. After a while he said, "You can turn around." Yes, the situation just now was urgent. Lin Yu shrugged and said, "You're now in the second realm of sword cultivation, and your battle strength is comparable to the 3rd ignition of the reincarnation mirror." Sword Addict only felt her heart pounding. When she saw Lin Yu's body, she was more excited than when she broke through. After a while, she came back to her senses. "Thank you, Little Sacred King." Lin Yu nodded. "If you hadn't blocked the lightning tribulation for me at the critical moment, I might not have broken through so easily." Chapter 25. Lin Yu loosened his muscles. With his current physique, anyone below the reincarnation realm would not be able to hurt him. Even those below the transcendence realm would have a very low chance of hurting him. "Little Sacred King, I want to practice my sword," Sword Maniac suddenly said. Her entire body was enveloped by the powerful lightning sword chi, as if it would burst out of her body at any moment. Lin Yu knew that her physique was not high, so he brought Sword Maniac down the mountain. They should be back soon. Outside the sect leader's hall, Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back. Yang Qing, Long Lin, and Lu Wuhan arrived one after another. "I've brought the winged dragon's tendon." Yang Qing clasped her hands together and handed a golden dragon's tendon to Lin Yu. Lin Yu nodded. Long Lin said, "The flame beast's blood is here." He took out a clay jar that was half the height of a person. The thick smell of blood could be smelled from outside. It's very pure. Lin Yu smelled the scent. Lu Wuhan took out a piece of wood that was as tall as a person. The main branch of the heavenly lock Dao tree. Lu Wuhan said. Lin Yu was very satisfied. He kept the 3 items and said, "From now on, Long Lin and Yang Qing will spar with each other for 6 hours every day." He then looked at the other 2. Lu Wuhan, use the phoenix spear to spar with Sword Maniac. Lu Wuhan was surprised. Don't worry, little sacred king. I'll lower my level to spar with her. Lin Yu smiled. There's no need to lower your level. Lu Wuhan was stunned. He looked at Sword Maniac carefully and realized that she was emitting a sword chi that shocked him. The 2nd level of sword cultivation. Lu Wuhan was overjoyed. Great! I didn't expect that there would be another 2nd level sword cultivator after Elder Yang. Yang Qing looked at the Sword Maniac in shock. Based on her observation, the Sword Maniac would need a few more years to reach the 2nd level of cultivation. It was Little Sacred King who helped me break through, Sword Maniac said with his head lowered. Everyone looked at Lin Yu in shock, only to see the latter shrugging his shoulders. Cultivate well, everyone can improve. Lu Wuhan smiled. From Lin Yu's every movement, he could feel a terrifying power of vitality. We really need to cultivate properly. Otherwise, after a little more time, the battle prowess of the little Saint King will leave us in the dust. Long Lin and Yang Qing nodded in agreement. They could also sense Lin Yu's blood chi and glory chi. That was the realm of dual cultivation of glory energy and battle physique. The 4 of them left to cultivate. Lin Yu walked into the sect master's hall. Qin Ji was already waiting for him. Everything is ready. A dagger and a talisman were placed on the table in front of Qin Ji. Upon closer inspection, there was even a faint formation on the table. Lin Yu took out the winged dragon tendon, the flame beast blood, and the Dao tree trunk and placed them in front of him. Qin Ji frowned. When will I be able to understand what little sacred king is thinking? Lin Yu smiled. It's just a substitute. He didn't think it was a big deal. However, to Qin Ji it was extremely shocking. Lin Yu inserted the tree trunk into the formation, and the talisman rose into the air. Lin Yu closed his eyes and pointed at the talisman. The purity of this life and death talisman is not bad. After Lin Yu finished speaking, Qin Ji glanced at him unhappily. Of course, I'll give the best to the little sacred king. You're getting more and more obedient. Lin Yu smiled. Qin Ji's face was indeed flushed. Lin Yu closed his eyes and immediately dispersed his divine sense into the talisman. The formation suddenly lit up, and complex patterns appeared on it. Lin Yu's divine sense was no longer here. When it reappeared, it was already at a star. This star wasn't a sphere. Instead, it had an incomparably vast river with no end in sight. This river floated in the sky, and the river was yellow in color. Upon closer inspection, there were countless souls densely packed in the river. Beside the river, a water wheel moved slowly, drawing water from the river. 1,000,000 souls flowed from the river onto the water wheel and were sent to the shore. There was an ancient bridge on the shore. Bright red flowers bloomed on both sides of the bridge. On each flower, there seemed to be countless teardrop-like pistils. The pistils were blooming like the tears of a departed person. These souls' eyes were filled with confusion. They walked along the blood flowers onto the ancient bridge. The shackles under their feet rubbed against the ancient bridge, producing clanking sounds. That river was called the Yellow Spring. That water wheel was called the Reincarnation. That ancient bridge was called the Helplessness. That blood flower was called the Red Spider Lily. All of this seemed to be eternal. On the other side of the bridge, the sound of Mount Sumeru flowed like thunder in the quiet square, rumbling and reverberating endlessly. Salvation of all living beings. Only then can I attain Bodhi. Hell is not empty. I swear not to become a Buddha. Note: Taken from the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's original Vows Sutra, the voice suddenly stopped. A pair of eyes opened abruptly. They were so huge that they occupied half of the sky. The eyes looked at the reincarnation wheel and noticed that a figure had appeared on it. The figure stopped on a name in the reincarnation wheel. He removed the name directly. The place where the name was originally at immediately erupted with blue flames and began to spontaneously combust. In the end, the person and the name disappeared into thin air as if they had never appeared. The eyes were furious. Suddenly, the entire star seemed to be shaken by an earth-shattering force. Ghosts wailed and the yellow spring churned. Who is it that changed his own fate? The voice spread throughout the reincarnation wheel. The water in the yellow spring boiled. Millions of souls trembled, but no one dared to answer. In the sect master's palace, Qinji looked at Lin Yu with a worried expression. Seeing that Lin Yu had finally opened his eyes, she heaved a sigh of relief. Where did you go? As an expert in spiritual sense, she could naturally see that Lin Yu's spiritual sense had gone to a second place. As expected, his spiritual sense isn't above mine. However, he seems to have some kind of secret technique that allows his spiritual sense to freely travel through different dimensions. Qinji pondered. However, what she was most worried about now was that Lin Yu had returned to the Sea of Demons. If he was stopped by that terrifying existence, what would happen to the forgotten immortal sect in the future? Lin Yu heaved a sigh of relief. A light spot suddenly appeared in his palm. Lin Yu smiled faintly and said, I went to the underworld. Qinji's expression changed drastically. The underworld? Are you crazy? That's the place of the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Qinji could not help but tremble. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. In the universe, the gathering place of the souls of the dead. He's the lord of the underworld. He's an existence more terrifying than the Seven Sins Demon Emperor. Qinji had always felt that she would never be able to come into contact with such a powerful figure in her lifetime. This was because once she came into contact with him, the forgotten immortal sect might disappear completely with just a glance from him. However, the young man in front of her had escaped from Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Looking at the thing in Lin Yu's hand, Qinji's chest heaved up and down again. It seemed that he had taken something from the underworld. Lin Yu shrugged. I'm back, aren't I? Indeed, if I was a little slower, I would have been stopped. Lin Yu smiled. However, Qinji's heart was beating faster and faster. It's good that you're fine. Lin Yu shot the light spot into the trunk of the Dao tree. Soon, the trunk shook. It was as if there was a human's aura constantly wandering inside. Chapter 26. Puppet Art. Qinji finally understood what Lin Yu was trying to do. This guy didn't just want to make a substitute, he wanted to create a real person. This was something that defied the heavens. But it was happening right in front of her. Qinji looked at Lin Yu in shock, but saw that he was calm and composed, without a trace of fear. More importantly, he picked up the winged dragon tendon and put it into the Dao tree's trunk with ease. In this world, the Dao tree is the closest to a human's battle constitution, while the winged dragon tendon and the flame beast's blood are the strongest battle constitution materials in the Hongmeng continent. Lin Yu explained, this is the most powerful puppet that the Hongmeng continent can create. If it was somewhere else, Lin Yu naturally had the ability to create something even more powerful. The aura of death from the underworld flowed into the Dao tree. As all the materials were integrated, Lin Yu picked up the dagger and slid it in his palm. Blood flowed down, containing his own aura of death and his own blood. This puppet would be exactly the same as him. Lin Yu didn't think about anything else. He pressed his hand on the Dao tree, and a tyrannical aura of life burst out. The Dao tree kept shattering, and debris burst out, directly cutting the ground and the table. Qinji was startled and quickly retreated. She was shocked. It hasn't been completed yet, but it has such a tyrannical aura. What kind of terrifying puppet is this? Lin Yu had once again refreshed her understanding of him. With such a person helping the forgotten immortal sect, what did she have to be afraid of? Crack, crack. The Dao tree stopped shattering, and a person that looked exactly like Lin Yu appeared. He didn't have the wood of the tree trunk, and his facial features and limbs were exactly the same as Lin Yu's. Even his skin, bones, and blood vessels that others couldn't see were the same. The puppet slowly opened its eyes. When it saw Lin Yu, it half knelt. Master. Lin Yu nodded. Show me your strength. The puppet didn't seem to have any thoughts. It only obeyed Lin Yu's orders. It stood up and a 30-foot large fireball soared into the air, appearing above its head. The temperature of the entire sect master's hall suddenly became scorching hot. Qin-ji subconsciously took a few steps back. Her cultivation was suppressed by the fireball. Transcendence, one yang transcendence. Concubine Qin felt like she was going crazy. It would be great if other people's puppets could move, but Lin Yu's puppets would reach the transcendent realm as soon as they were completed. What was going on? Lin Yu sighed softly. If it weren't for the fact that my cultivation isn't high enough, you could be even stronger. Forget it, I'll strengthen you in the future. He then ordered the puppets, go to the crafting school, leave no one alive. Yes. The puppet said without any tone, and its figure disappeared from the sect leader's palace. The crafting school? Qin-ji was confused. Lin Yu said, the unfettered venerable suffered a great loss. He'll definitely go to the crafting school to find someone to vent his anger. You want him to kill the unfettered venerable? Qin-ji was shocked. Lin Yu nodded. I want half of the Crimson Heaven Pavilion's generals to die before the Hongming duel. Qin-ji finally felt Lin Yu's ruthlessness. The Crimson Heaven Pavilion used all their efforts to deal with the Forgotten Immortal sect, but they didn't know that the Forgotten Immortal sect had an additional person. Can the puppet kill the unfettered venerable? Qin-ji asked worriedly. Lin Yu shrugged and walked out of the sect leader's palace. It would be a little difficult, but the unfettered venerable isn't at his peak. He should have used up a lot of energy in the crafting school. Qin-ji was stunned. How could he guess that? Lin Yu left the sect leader's palace. When he passed by the 12 palaces, he saw Situ-ju looking for him. Greetings, little sacred king. Situ-ju bowed respectfully. Father asked me to come and apologize to you, little sacred king. He specially offered you something he got from the crafting school. Lin Yu smiled. He originally wanted to settle the score with Xian Yu, but he didn't expect him to bring it here himself. What else did your father say? Lin Yu asked. Situ-ju immediately knelt down. Father said that little sacred king gave him today's credit. It shows that little sacred king is benevolent and righteous. Father doesn't have the face to see you. Lin Yu shrugged. Xian Yu, this old guy, really has a lot of drama. Lin Yu took the brocade box from Situ-ju and opened it. There was an incense burner inside. It was a palm-sized incense burner. You can leave. I won't bother with the other things he stole from the crafting school, Lin Yu said. Situ-ju was overjoyed. He hurriedly kowtowed a few more times before leaving. Lin Yu entered his residence in the 12 palaces. He opened the incense burner and murmured, I didn't expect the spirit weapon fluctuation near the crafting school to be this thing. Lin Yu studied the incense burner. He couldn't be wrong. In the past 100,000 years, he had felt the aura of a spirit weapon being born in the crafting school. Unfortunately, his cultivation was too low, and because the spirit weapon hadn't really taken shape yet, he didn't take it out. However, he checked the incense burner in his hand with his divine sense. There was no mistake. It was that treasure. I didn't expect Xian Yu to take it back this time. Lin Yu smiled. He thought he would have to wait until the puppet destroyed the crafting school and the carefree honored warrior before he had the chance to look for it. He opened the incense burner. There was nothing inside. Lin Yu thought of the records in the ancient books. He made a guess. He cut his finger and dripped a drop of blood on it. Suddenly, the incense burner exploded. An even smaller purple incense burner appeared, circling in Lin Yu's palm. A purple light appeared inside the incense burner. It was 2 lines of words. Purple chi from the east, Emperor's soul goes to the west. Lin Yu rubbed his chin. His eyes flashed. He smiled. Could this be the soul refining item that the Divine Will Emperor used to refine the dead person's soul? He followed the method in his memory and integrated his divine sense into it. He came to the incense burner. From the outside, Lin Yu was motionless. But inside the incense burner, there was a small illusory Lin Yu sitting cross-legged. Lin Yu looked around the incense burner. He laughed. Sure enough, the Divine Will Emperor spent his entire life to create the technique. So it was carved here. The inner walls of the incense burner couldn't be seen by the naked eye. Only after the blood refinement and the divine sense entered the incense burner could one see the dense words inside. Soul-devouring art, devouring all souls to reach the invincible realm of divine sense. Lin Yu smiled. Unfortunately, if I'm not wrong, this technique has a restriction. Among the 9 emperors in the ancient times, the Divine Will Emperor was the youngest and his cultivation method was the most radical. Lin Yu continued to integrate the soul-devouring art in the incense burner. He said, "This is also the reason why the Divine Will Emperor failed in the end. He focused too much on the cultivation of divine sense and forgot that the carrier of divine sense is the physical body. The physical body was too weak. In the end, it couldn't bear the burden of his divine sense. Therefore, the Divine Will Emperor couldn't reach the final realm and died first." Lin Yu had done research on the great figures in the ancient times. He knew every one of them. He thought that this knowledge was just a story to learn, but he didn't expect that he would have the opportunity to get the things left behind by the Divine Will Emperor today. It was much more precious than the Phoenix Spear. I thought it was just a spiritual weapon. I didn't expect it to be at least a divine weapon. Chapter 27. Lin Yu knew that the Tao technique within the incense burner was also a restriction. Once the restriction was removed, the incense burner would unleash an earth-shattering power. However, he didn't expect Xian Yu and Situ Ju to deliver it to him. Lin Yu cultivated within the incense burner for 2 hours. When he opened his eyes, he had already memorized the soul-devouring great art. My spiritual senses still have 100,000 years to refine. Once it's refined, my spiritual senses might be able to break through faster than my combat physique and cultivation. Lin Yu pondered. Compared to Qin Ji's current spiritual senses, which was at the 9 Flames reincarnation realm, her overall combat strength was still comparable to a transcendent realm expert even if her glory energy cultivation fell. Lin Yu estimated that it would take a long time for his 100,000 years of spiritual senses to be completely refined. After another 2 hours of seclusion, Lin Yu's spiritual senses entered the state. Purple cyclones continuously appeared within his body. Within the cyclones, Lin Yu was about to slowly refine his 100,000 years of spiritual senses. After 2 hours, he opened his eyes and realized that his spiritual senses had only been refined for 30 years. A mortal's spiritual senses would only last for 100 years. Hence, 100 years of spiritual senses would be equivalent to 100 years of spiritual senses. Above, 500 years of spiritual senses would be equivalent to a deliverance realm spiritual sense. 1,000 years of spiritual senses would be equivalent to a reincarnation realm spiritual sense. 1,000 years of spiritual senses didn't mean that the physical body had to live for 1,000 years. For experts like Qin Ji who focused on spiritual senses, even if they weren't old, they had already reached the realm of 1,000 years of spiritual senses with their talents and hard work. It was too slow. Lin Yu increased his speed. After another 6 hours, he opened his eyes. The strength of his spiritual senses had already reached 80 years of spiritual senses. Forget it. It seems like it's faster to devour others. Lin Yu went out and arrived at the 7th palace. Saber intent and sword aura were constantly erupting at the back of the mountain. The 7th palace's disciples were trembling in fear, but no one dared to check out the back of the mountain. Seeing Lin Yu's arrival, everyone knelt down. Greetings, young sage king. Lin Yu nodded and walked towards the back of the mountain. He saw Yang Qing and Long Lin sweating profusely. Hundreds of trees around them had been destroyed. It seemed like they had been fighting for a long time. On the other side, Lin Yu also heard the cry of a phoenix. Sweeping out with his divine sense, he saw that 300 feet away, Lu Wuhan had already merged with the phoenix cry spear, constantly erupting with astonishing power. Wherever the tip of the spear passed, the earth shook violently, and sand and pebbles were sent flying. Enough! Lin Yu's face sank as he sent out his spiritual sense. The 4 of them stopped at the same time. Sword Maniac controlled his sword with lightning. Just as he was about to attack, he was interrupted by Lin Yu. He immediately withdrew his sword Qi and ran to Lin Yu. The other 3 did the same. The 4 of them stood in front of Lin Yu, not knowing why Lin Yu was so angry. Yang Qing clasped her fists and asked, "Little Saint King, did we make a mistake?" Lin Yu glanced at the 4 of them and pointed at Lu Wuhan. "The rest of you, step back. You, attack me with your spear." Lu Wuhan was stunned. "Little Saint King is my savior. I dare not." Lin Yu sighed. "If I ask you to attack, then attack. Say it if you can hurt me." Lu Wuhan had no choice but to attack with the Phoenix Cry spear. The tip of the spear shot out like lightning. Lin Yu raised his left hand and pinched the tip of the spear with 2 fingers. The Phoenix Cry spear could not move an inch. "Didn't you eat?" Lin Yu scolded. Lu Wuhan immediately took the blow and pulled back his spear. His battle strength exploded, and a white phoenix spread its wings behind him. The Phoenix Cry spear turned into a ray of white light, and a gust of wind swept up, shattering the earth. Lin Yu's eyes were calm. The moment the Phoenix Cry spear approached, he leaned to the side and dodged the tip of the spear. At the same time, he pointed out 2 fingers and hit Lu Wuhan's arm. With a clang, Lu Wuhan felt a sharp pain in his arm and had no choice but to let go of the Phoenix Cry spear. Lin Yu directly took the spear. "All 4 of you, try to take one move from me." Lin Yu raised his spear. Lu Wuhan was shocked. He did not expect Lin Yu to take away his weapon so easily. But he still advised, "Little Saint King, the spear has already recognized its master. If you use it recklessly, you will suffer a backlash." Lin Yu was too lazy to care about him. In his storage ring, the purple furnace lord flashed a faint light and the backlash of the Phoenix Cry spear immediately disappeared. The tip of the spear swept out and the 4 people immediately tried to block. But they felt that the Phoenix Cry spear's spear wind was extremely tricky. It came from all directions, and every point of attack was at a position that was difficult for them to dodge. Pung 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 pung. Sword Addict was the first to be hit in the stomach. Yang Qing and Long Lin's sword and saber were knocked down at the same time. Lu Wuhan was even worse. The spear wind swept over his body and his clothes were torn. If Lin Yu had not held back, the 4 of them would have been injured by the Phoenix Cry spear. So powerful! Little Saint King, even your spear technique is so powerful. The 4 of them bowed their fists at the same time. "Please forgive us, Little Saint King." Lin Yu threw the Phoenix Cry spear back to Lu Wuhan. He stood with his hands behind his back and said, "In a battle, power is important, but more importantly, accuracy." His gaze fell on Sword Addict. "If you lack accuracy, you will be like 9 sparrows and Guing. Your attacks will be easily dodged. If you have power and cultivation but can't hit your target, what's the use?" The 4 of them listened attentively. Lin Yu said, "Sword Addict, you will be in charge of the east. Yang Qing, Lu Wuhan, Long Lin, you will be in charge of the west, south, and north. I want all the trees within 300 feet to be 7 feet and 7 inches tall." The 4 of them frowned. There were at least 10,000 trees in each direction. It would be easy for them to cut them all down. But Lin Yu wanted them to be 7 feet and 7 inches. Unless they deliberately measured, it would be difficult to achieve. This is what true cultivation looks like. Let's go. Little Saint King's teachings can't be wrong. The 4 of them left. Sword Addict sneaked a glance at Lin Yu and left as well. Lin Yu sat cross-legged on the side. He didn't have much time left in the Hongming Dipper. He needed the 4 of them to help him solve all the obstacles. At this moment, Lin Yu merged with the Purple Furnace Lord to cultivate. When he opened his eyes again, his divine will had reached the level of 100 years. Lin Yu's body emitted a purple divine will vortex that continuously gathered into his body. In the sky, black clouds rolled over again. Lin Yu frowned and looked up. He felt that something was strange. Did that thing discover me so quickly? His current realm wasn't enough to attract 2 lightning tribulations in a day. But cultivating his body, chi, and spirit at the same time was heaven-defying. At this moment, the thunderclouds had already formed. It seems that I cultivated too quickly. Lin Yu smiled faintly and closed his eyes. He didn't need to block it because Long Lin and the other 3 had already made their move. The disciples of the Forgotten Immortal sect, especially the 7th Palace, were under the lightning tribulations. This time, it wasn't as far as the Supreme Clear Pool. They could clearly see the 4 figures in the sky. Sword Addict hadn't reached the reincarnation mirror yet, but her lightning sword aura was revolving around her feet. It was enough for her to step on air. Oh my God, what's wrong with the sect? 2 lightning tribulations in a day. Isn't that right? It's about to rise. Look, that's Elder Yang Qing, Elder Long Lin, and Elder Lu Wuhan. Chapter 28. Junior Sister Qi is among them. Boom. The 4 of them attacked at the same time. Sword Qi, Spear Wind, and Saber Intense soared into the sky. In the distance, Xian Yu and Qin Ji noticed this scene at the same time. Could it be that Master has a new plan? Xian Yu pondered and reminded herself not to get involved. If there was anything, she should wait for Lin Yu to instruct her personally. Qin Ji was shocked. It's the 2nd time today. Is it because of that guy? The heavenly axiom has a spirit. Twice a day. That guy is doing something against the heavens. She returned to the sect master hall and immersed herself in cultivation. Before the Hongmeng duel, she was confident that she could break through to the transcendent realm. Only then could she help Lin Yu. At the back mountain of the 7th Palace, when Lin Yu opened his eyes, the 4 of them had returned to their original positions. The thunder tribulation in the sky had also disappeared. You don't want me to improve too quickly? Lin Yu's eyes flashed with a sharp light. The law of the universe states that those who violate it will be killed. But you can't stop me. Lin Yu stood up. The sky was getting dark. He stretched. The other 4 were still working hard. He went to the Supreme Clear Pool and closed his eyes to recover his body. Today's breakthrough was too fierce. Lin Yu knew that if he didn't slow down, he might hurt his Taoist foundation. I should also choose a suitable weapon. Lin Yu stood beside the Supreme Clear Pool and looked down. The Forgotten Immortal sect fell into the night again, but there were still faint lights. On the path of cultivation, he was 100,000 years later than the others. But from the day he escaped, he was 100,000 years faster than the others. Everyone below was cultivating, but their progress was less than 1% of Lin Yu's. Thinking of this, Lin Yu felt very lucky. At the back mountain of the 7th Palace, there were still sounds of fighting. Lin Yu knew that the 4 of them had reached the limit of their cultivation. If they could persevere, the Forgotten Immortal sect would officially rise to become the top sect in the Hongmeng duel. But the 4 of them had good weapons. There will be an auction in Night King City in 2 days. Qin Ji's voice suddenly came from behind him. When Lin Yu turned around, Qin Ji had already jumped into the clear pool with a splash. As soon as she came in, she sensed the strong masculine aura in the clear pool. Her face flushed. Your body has become much stronger. I can't take it anymore. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Then you'll have to work harder. No one else will listen to you. Lin Yu didn't say this, but Qin Ji had already understood. She immediately bit her lower lip and endured the yang energy entering her body to clear the yin energy backlash of the Great Dream technique. What new tricks did Night King City have this time? Lin Yu changed the topic. Qin Ji said, I heard that the finale is a 2-meter-tall egg. This is so strange that it even caused the other sects in the Northern Territory to mock it. Such a precious item is in Night King City's hands? Lin Yu's eyes flashed. The day after tomorrow? Qin Ji didn't expect Lin Yu to be so interested in the auction and nodded. Lin Yu asked again, How much glory bot does the Forgotten Immortal sect have? Qin Ji didn't dare object under Lin Yu's domineering gaze. About 100 million. Lin Yu frowned. That's not enough. Forget it, we'll talk about it when we get there. You want to go to the auction? Qin Ji reminded. Night King City isn't in the Hongmeng continent. It's a star in the Northern Territory. Many experts will be there. Lin Yu shrugged. It's fine. I just want the egg. Qin Ji was even more puzzled. I heard that even Night King City can't see through the mystery of the egg. It's just that it's too big. It doesn't look like an ordinary beast's egg. This auction is just a test. Qin Ji explained. I guess most people want to get the first few treasures. It's said that the Night King City has received treasures of the highest quality in the past 100 years. I don't care about those, Lin Yu said, but Night King City has the key to the Dao River. I wanted to go there later, but since I'm in time for the auction, I'll take it out early. The key to the Dao River? Qin Ji was puzzled. The Dao River has existed since ancient times. It crosses the Hongmeng continent. I only know that the Dao River has the densest glory qi in the Hongmeng continent. Lin Yu motioned for her to continue. Qin Ji said, but the glory qi there is getting less and less. Hence, the Hongmeng Dipper. The winning sect can obtain the qualifications to enter. That's right. The old man under the Dao River is very hidden. I guess that old man is about to die of old age. This Hongmeng Dipper might be the last. Lin Yu analyzed. To see the old man, you need the Night King City's key. There's someone under the Dao River? I always thought it was an ownerless object. Qin Ji was surprised. But even if there's someone, why is the key to the Dao River on another star in the Northern Territory? Lin Yu smiled. Because the Hongmeng continent and Night King City have been one for a long time. Qin Ji was shocked. She could tell that Lin Yu wasn't joking. The same place? But what kind of power separated the two continents? Lin Yu looked at the bright moon in the night sky. Do you know why the moon shines? Because of the reflection of the sun's light. Qin Ji replied. Lin Yu nodded. But the sun doesn't shine voluntarily. At least, the sun in the Northern Territory is like that. Voluntarily? The sun has consciousness? Qin Ji couldn't believe it. Of course it has consciousness. The hero of the imperial era was refined into a Dao body by the later generations to bring light to the Northern Territory. He continued to be a hero. Lin Yu's tone was full of regret. Qin Ji was confused, but the only thing she understood was that it was the imperial era. That was the Northern Territory starfield, and even the entire universe, an era long time ago. In that era, 9 Emperor-level powerhouses appeared in the universe. Any one of them was a terrifying existence that surpassed the 3 sovereigns. The 9 emperors ruled the 9 regions of the universe. The world called it the Imperial Era. The Imperial Era ended and the Dao Era began. The current 3 sovereigns era is just a lingering breath after the end of the Dao Era. Lin Yu said faintly. Every word made Qin Ji's mind seem to see the grand scene of the great Dao fighting and thousands of sects standing in a forest. Imperial Era. Dao Era. 3 sovereigns. Qin Ji frowned. The great Tao of this world is constantly regressing? Yes, but it's not because of humans, but… Lin Yu didn't continue. Instead, he looked up at the countless stars in the sky. Qin Ji recovered and didn't ask further. She was full of doubts, but she knew the reason Lin Yu said. If it could affect 3 eras, it wasn't something she was qualified to know now. Qin Ji asked, "Many sects will go to the Night King City auction. Do you want to bring people?" Lin Yu shook his head. "No need. I want to meet some old friends." "Old friends or old lovers?" Qin Ji asked tentatively. Chapter 29. Lin Yu smiled and approached Qin Ji. "Sect Master Qin, I'll be back after I get the key and the egg. By then, you'll have to improve as well." Qin Ji wanted to ask if Lin Yu was going to meet his old lover, but when the words were about to come out of her mouth, she felt an astonishing masculine aura from Lin Yu's body surging towards her. Qin Ji quickly closed her eyes with a look of discomfort, unable to ask any more questions. After a long time, after Lin Yu withdrew his masculine aura, Qin Ji slowly came back to her senses. Lin Yu said again, "I need flying soldiers and 100 million glory bot. Of course, it can be prepared before dawn tomorrow." Qin Ji was afraid that Lin Yu would suddenly make things difficult for her, so she didn't dare to ask anything else. Lin Yu sized Qin Ji up. "You're really becoming more and more cooperative." Qin Ji was stunned, thinking that Lin Yu was implying something. "At such a young age, you're only saying things to deceive women." Lin Yu smiled. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance. Qin Ji was shocked and released her spiritual sense towards the figure, but she found that her spiritual sense attack was useless against him. Qin Ji screamed and hid in the pool. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. "Puppet, you scared her." The puppet that looked exactly like Lin Yu half knelt in the air. "Master, please punish me." Lin Yu shrugged. "How's the weapon refining sect?" The puppet said, "They're all dead." He raised his right hand and grabbed a head. It was Unfettered Venerable's head. Unfettered Venerable's eyes were still open. Clearly, he didn't expect that today would be the day of his death. "When you arrived, how was the weapon refining sect?" The puppet replied, "More than half of them were dead or injured. I hid in the dark and waited for them to kill each other before making my move." "Very good." Lin Yu nodded in satisfaction. He saw the puppet throw down hundreds of storage rings. This thing was more useful than Xian Yu. At least he was not greedy and would not stuff his own pocket. Lin Yu put the puppet into his storage ring before pulling Qin Ji out. "It's fine now. Not even puppets." Qin Ji looked at Lin Yu reproachfully. The latter smiled and nodded. "What do you think these are?" Qin Ji took a deep breath. Hundreds of storage rings were enough to shock her. Lin Yu scanned the place with his spiritual will. Including the carefree reverend and his group, there should be about 100 million glory bot here. It seems like this trip will be easier. Qin Ji's heart trembled. "Did you really kill revered freedom?" Lin Yu asked, "Are you afraid?" Qin Ji nodded. She really didn't want to start a war with the Crimson Heaven Pavilion right now. However, Lin Yu smiled. "Don't worry. Revered Freedom massacred the entire weapon refining sect, and Sect Master Qin killed him personally. No one can blame you for this." Lin Yu stared into Qin Ji's eyes. "Remember, the current situation in Hongmeng is not something that can be solved by retreating. When I return, the Hongmeng battle will begin." Qin Ji nodded solemnly. 2 hours later, Lin Yu recovered his battle constitution. His battle constitution had stabilized at the Salvation Realm. First Transformation Redemption Realm. First Ignition Samsara Realm. 100-Year Spirit Realm. Lin Yu judged that his current overall battle strength was close to the peak of the Samsara stage, which was a solo cultivator. After returning to the 12 palaces, Lin Yu saw that everyone around him was asleep. He returned to his room and was surprised to see Yang Qing lying on his bed. Her clothes were neat and tidy and her eyes were closed. However, the glory bot was still burning in the room. Lin Yu smiled and blew out the glory bot. He laid down beside Yang Qing and gently stroked her face with his finger. Yang Qing's skin was as white as snow. She was almost as beautiful as Sword Maniac, who was in his teens. Lin Yu smiled when he saw Yang Qing's eyelashes fluttering. "Won't you be embarrassed if you pretend to be asleep?" Yang Qing's chest rose and fell, but her eyes were still closed. Lin Yu stopped teasing her. He held her hand and fell into a deep sleep. When the sun rose, the rays of the sun shone into the room. Lin Yu opened his eyes and saw that Yang Qing was no longer beside him. It was obvious that he had been frightened by the sword fanatic and had learned his lesson. Lin Yu smiled and opened the door. A maid from the sect master's palace had already informed him that Qin Ji's flying weapon was ready. "Who are you bringing with you this time?" Qin Ji asked curiously. Lin Yu shrugged. He knew that the three elders and Sword Maniac had cultivation missions. He smiled and said, "Can I bring you with me?" Qin Ji's body trembled. She immediately shook her head and said, "It's not that I don't want to accompany you. However, as the sect master, I still need to prepare for the Hongmeng duel." Lin Yu smiled. It seemed like Qin Ji wanted to break through as soon as possible. "When I return, I want to see you break through to the transcendent realm." Qin Ji nodded and stepped forward. She placed a storage ring in Lin Yu's hand and said, "Here's 100 million glory bot." Lin Yu kept the storage ring. Outside the sect master's palace, there was a flying weapon that was 30 feet tall. It looked like a huge black warship. This warship could travel through the starry sky. It was sufficient for Lin Yu to reach Nanking City. Yang Qing and the others had also arrived. After Qin Ji told them that Lin Yu would be leaving for a while, Yang Qing and Sword Maniac's hearts suddenly felt empty. Even Lu Wuhan and Long Lin were a little disappointed. The little sacred king's understanding of martial arts is unprecedented. Without his guidance, our progress, Yang Qing said unhappily. He gave us a mission. "Don't worry." Lu Wuhan felt strange. "Elder Yang, we practiced until so late yesterday. It's still early in the morning. When did the little sacred king tell you about the mission?" Yang Qing knew that she had let it slip. She said angrily, "You don't have to worry about that." She was still feeling uncomfortable when she saw Lin Yu boarding the flying weapon. Lu Wuhan smiled and took a step back awkwardly. He shouted, "Have a safe journey, little sacred king." Lin Yu nodded and stood with his hands behind his back. "I'll be back in a few days. If I snatch your spear again, I'll give the Phoenix Song spear to someone else." Lu Wuhan shook his head in fear. Don't. The little sacred king wants my life." Lin Yu smiled and said no more. The flying weapon soared into the sky. In the distance, Lin Yu saw Qin Yi in the Saintess Palace. She was watching him from afar. Under the 7 Yi Demon Emperor's order, the 108 Saintesses of the Northern Starfield were not allowed to go out without permission and avoid contact with men. Qin Yi was like a canary in a cage. Lin Yu's appearance gave her a feeling of being alive. Qin Yi did not dare to disturb Lin Yu too much. If the 7 Yi Demon Emperor's men found out, it would be a disaster for Lin Yu and the forgotten immortal sect. Lin Yu sighed and smiled at Qin Yi. He suddenly felt a sense of responsibility. He would not stay for any woman, but Lin Yu did not want a woman like Qin Yi, who had given everything to him, to get hurt. "I need to get the thing in the Dao River as soon as possible. Otherwise, it will take me at least 100 years to reach the level of the 3 sovereigns." Lin Yu muttered to himself. The flying weapon soared into the sky and gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Long Lin, who had been silent all this time, took a deep breath and said, "When the little sacred king returns, he will definitely be stronger." The dragon scale saber appeared in his hand and he carried it on his shoulder. "Don't let him leave you too far behind. Let's go." Chapter 30. Lu Wuhan's blood was boiling as well. He quickly followed along. Sword Fanatic and Yang Qing followed along as well. Qin Ji looked at these people and suddenly understood. Lin Yu's greatest charm was his ability to unite people. He was the one who gave the forgotten immortal sect the strength to be reborn. On the flying soldier, Lin Yu stood with his hands behind his back. In the blink of an eye, the Hongmeng continent's territory kept shrinking. After passing through the clouds, they arrived at the starry skies. Lin Yu looked at the shining stars. On every star there were countless stories happening. Countless geniuses were appearing out of nowhere. He then looked at the border of the North Star Domain, where the South Star Domain and the East Star Domain intersected. The scorching sun was constantly enlarging. Lin Yu suddenly sat down cross-legged. The ordinary cultivation techniques in the world are no longer worthy of my attention. Why don't I borrow your cultivation technique? If others were here, they would definitely think that Lin Yu was crazy. However, when he faced the sun, a strand of spiritual sense flashed across the sun. Lin Yu smirked and closed his eyes. Sunlight shone on the flying soldier. Lin Yu's entire body was enveloped by the glory aura. His qi and blood circulated, and his spiritual sense expanded. 3 elements returned to 1. This state lasted for 20 hours. When Lin Yu opened his eyes, a scorching sun phantom appeared behind him. This wasn't a real sun, but it was like a fireball. Compared to the puppet's transcendent realm's fireball, it had a similar feeling. Great Sun Dao Art. Unfortunately, it's not a personal technique. It's not powerful enough. Lin Yu sighed in pity. He looked towards the direction of the sun. His eyes were glaring, but he knew that someone couldn't hold it in anymore. As expected, in less than half a cup of tea's time, a thunderous voice came from the sun. Who's comprehending my cultivation technique? Lin Yu had already expected this. He cupped his fists. Lin Yu apologizes for disturbing the Shumi Great Sovereign's sleep. Everything was normal within the sun. However, a voice came out again. This voice was extremely loud, but it seemed like only Lin Yu could hear it. You're only 16 years old, yet you have such a stable aura. No wonder you have the guts to comprehend my Tao. I'm just barely holding on. Lin Yu's tone did not contain the slightest hint of modesty. Instead, he continued, Grandmaster should have a better Tao technique. The front part of the flying combat soldier had already lit up with the sun's flames. These flames were much more powerful than the flames on the Grand Mist continent or any other ordinary planet. Not only are you not afraid of death, but you also know me very well? The voice from the sun was already a little angry. Lin Yu lowered his head to look at the blazing grand sun primordial fire in front of him. He raised his hand as if he was feeling the temperature within it. He smiled and said, Grandmaster is the hero of the North Domain. During the era of the Imperial Reign, if it weren't for Grandmaster protecting the 4 directions star regions, at least 90% of the lives in the North Domain would have perished. That voice was extremely surprised. You are not simple. Lin Yu shrugged and continued, after the fall of the 9 emperors, someone wanted to restart the Imperial era. Naturally, they would need to borrow the power of those all-powerful characters. Lin Yu let out a long sigh. The hero of the Imperial Reign, who survived the long Tao End era, was reduced to a sealed body by the later generations, trapped in the sun forever. Hero, unfortunately, the era has passed, and no one remembers the hero. Within the sun, the voice said in shock, You, who are you? I'm just an ordinary person who knows some secrets. Grandmaster shouldn't care about me, but how to take revenge? Lin Yu said. That voice was silent for a long time, but he did not directly answer Lin Yu. Instead, he said, Little brat, it seems like you know a lot of things. However, you dare to say such words in the North Domain. Aren't you afraid of those 3 bastards? He was referring to the 3 emperors who ruled the 4 directions star regions, especially the 7 Yi demon emperor of the North Domain. Lin Yu did not comment. He said indifferently, If I want, no one in the North Domain can stop me. Today, I'm speaking to Grandmaster because I admire Grandmaster's heroic spirit from the bottom of my heart. Hero. Just as you said, the era has passed, and no one remembers the hero. The voice was filled with despair. Everything was within Lin Yu's expectations. If Grandmaster can break free, then it'll be a different story. Break free. The voice sounded again with a hint of self-mockery. The seal created by the 3 emperors, I can't break it when my cultivation base is less than 10% of my peak. Grandmaster can't break it, but I can. Lin Yu said seriously. The Nirvana tree has borne fruit again. The Nirvana fruit that contains the power of a divine item will appear in less than a month. Nirvana tree. Nirvana fruit. The voice laughed contemptuously. Even the 9 emperors of the imperial era may not have been able to obtain the 8 great divine items. Even a fruit of a divine item is enough to attract the attention of the 7 Yi demon emperor. You're just a child. Where did you get the confidence to obtain the Nirvana fruit and bring it to me under his nose? No one has done it before, but it doesn't mean there won't be anyone in the future. Grandmaster doesn't need to trust me. You just need to maintain your current anger and vent it when necessary. Lin Yu showed great confidence. Even the divine will in the sun seemed to be shocked by Lin Yu's steadfastness and confidence when it scanned the area where he was. After a long time, the divine sense said, "What are your conditions?" Lin Yu smiled, knowing that Grandmaster Shumi was moved by his words. He said with a smile, "It's comfortable to talk with smart people. It's just that it's too early to talk about conditions. It won't be too late to talk about them after I bring the Nirvana fruit." Lin Yu's calm demeanor made Grand Venerable Shumi feel uneasy. Lin Yu had done this on purpose. Sure enough, Grand Paragon Shumi said, "They left my true self here because they wanted to gain enlightenment of my Taoist magic. However, even if my divine will were to die, my great sun Taoist magic would disappear with me. Even in their dreams, they wouldn't be able to obtain it." Lin Yu knew he had achieved his goal. Soon, the voice thought for a long time and said, "Continue to comprehend. Don't disappoint me." Lin Yu smiled. Suddenly, the calm true sun fire around him began to wildly jump. Lin Yu sat down cross-legged. The flames suddenly spread all over his body. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been scared out of their wits. But Lin Yu simply allowed the flames to burn him. The flames were all-pervasive and instantly enveloped Lin Yu. He felt excruciating pain, but he also felt a tempering intent from the flames. It was tempering his internal organs, invading his blood and meridians. What a tyrannical tempering! Lin Yu faced the excruciating pain, but he didn't even blink. Inside his body, his internal organs were constantly being destroyed by the Grand Sun primordial fire. However, within the Grand Sun primordial fire, a pure power of rebirth flowed out and regenerated the parts of Lin Yu's body that had been burned. This state lasted for 6 hours before the flames gradually disappeared. The place where Lin Yu was standing had become a pitch-black charred land that emitted a charred smell. Countless black crystals had even appeared on the surface of his body, as if they had seeped out of his pores. Now they had all been burned away. Chapter 31. Did you get anything? The voice came from the sun. Every sentence of this voice was as deafening as thunder. Especially when the voice was not targeted at the ears of the body, but directly integrated into the divine will. Lin Yu was glad that his divine will had broken through yesterday. Otherwise, with his mortal realm divine will, he would not have been able to withstand the first sentence. Lin Yu could feel the great sun mantra in his mind and his battle physique, reaching the samsara realm. He rose to his feet and clasped his fists at the sun. "Thank you for your teachings, Supreme Paragon Shumi." Then, he raised his right hand and a black flame suddenly jumped out of his palm. This flame was clearly different from ordinary red flames. When it appeared, the surrounding temperature instantly rose. This was the great sun path art that was taught personally. Is this your path? It's very pure. The thunderous voice came from the sun again. You may leave. As soon as the words were spoken, all the flames on the flying combat soldier disappeared. Lin Yu was grateful. He bowed again and said, I still need Supreme Venerable to hold on here for a while. Once the time is right, Supreme Venerable will be free and the North will have a new master. Lin Yu's voice came out, but he did not get a reply for a long time. But he did not stay and sped up toward Night King City. After Lin Yu left, a pair of pitch-black eyes slowly appeared in the sun. The North will have a new master. Arrogant brat, I hope my efforts are not in vain. The space around Lin Yu kept changing. Soon, he passed through a layer of clouds that were dozens of feet thick. When he reappeared, a huge city came into view. This city floated in the stars and was supported by a continent. It was hard to imagine how this continent could float in the stars for so many years without the gravitational pull of a planet. The city was huge. After Lin Yu's warship broke through the clouds, it began to collapse. The true sun fire just now burned a lot of it. Lin Yu felt a headache. After passing through the clouds, he directly left the flying combat soldier. The wreckage of the warship also disintegrated in the clouds. Lin Yu descended from the sky and saw a nearby flying combat soldier breaking through the clouds. Above, Lin Yu could vaguely see many figures. He was at least tens of thousands of feet above the city. Lin Yu knew that even if he landed, he would use up all his glory energy. It wasn't worth it. Therefore, he shifted his body and appeared on another flying combat soldier. He cupped his fists and said, This humble one is Lin Yu. Because the warship is damaged, can you take a ride with the wind? On the deck of the ship, there were two groups of people confronting each other. In the middle of one group, a middle-aged man shouted angrily, No, get lost. Lin Yu frowned. Are you the owner of the warship? I'm your King Master. Scram. The man cursed again. Lin Yu laughed dryly. This was someone else's thing. If he didn't want to borrow it, it wouldn't be good for him to snatch it. Forget it. Lin Yu wanted to turn and leave, but opposite the man, a mature woman in her 20s suddenly shouted. He's not the owner of this place. I am. She ran out, but the man stopped her. The woman had no choice but to shout from afar. He wants to steal my ship. Young master, you're flying here with a monstrous cultivation. Can you help me? The woman pleaded. Stop this B***tch for me. Today, the Flying Cloud Trade Association belongs to me. Tonight, you will also belong to me. The middle-aged man glared at Lin Yu. If you don't want to die, don't meddle in other people's business. Lin Yu blinked. I do want to die. That's why I'm coming down. He had already observed everyone on the ship. Indeed, that group of people was surrounding the woman. Behind her, there was a group of old and weak soldiers. Clearly, they were the ones waiting to be slaughtered. With a boom, Lin Yu was already standing on the deck. Under his feet were two people who had come to stop him. However, the two of them were now foaming at the mouth and had already fainted. I'm the vice president of the Flying Cloud Trade Association. This is our family business. Who are you? Why are you meddling in other people's business? The middle-aged man pulled out his sword and pointed it at Lin Yu. Lin Yu smiled faintly and raised his hand. Before the middle-aged man could react, he saw his sword ignite with black flames. The sword melted instantly. Damn it! The middle-aged man immediately threw away his sword. However, the flames immediately spread to his entire body. The middle-aged man's heart tightened. He felt a sense of danger that he had never felt before. He hurriedly used his Yao Qi to suppress the flames. However, the black flames did not seem to be extinguished. They directly burned his Yao Qi, causing the flames to burn even more fiercely. Vice President. The dozens of followers behind him were shocked. When they wanted to rush forward, they were scared off by the flames and Lin Yu. Young hero, let's talk nicely. I'll satisfy whatever you want. the middle-aged man begged. Lin Yu smiled faintly. I only wanted to borrow your boat. Who knew that you wouldn't let me, so I had no choice but to kill you. His tone was calm, but his 5 fingers formed a claw. The flames burned the middle-aged man to ashes. Lin Yu's face was calm, as if killing someone was nothing out of the ordinary. The more calm he was, the more everyone was shocked. A murderous demon had appeared. The vice president's group of followers all scattered and fled. Lin Yu did not like to let people live. He raised his hand and activated the soul-devouring technique. A terrifying suction force appeared from his palm. The suction force instantly enveloped the space in front of him. The group of people stopped in their tracks. It was also at this moment that they felt a piercing pain in their head. They could no longer control their limbs. Then, they all fainted. Don't waste it. Lin Yu smiled faintly and sucked the group of people's divine sense dry. In the blink of an eye, his divine sense had broken through 500 years. With a rumble, Lin Yu felt the divine sense cyclone around him explode. The divine sense sea in his mind expanded several times. He had stepped into the divine sense salvation realm. With another flick of his finger, all the storage rings of this group of people were ripped off their fingers and flew into Lin Yu's palm. Lin Yu scanned the storage rings with his divine sense. More than 10 million glorybot. How poor. Behind him, everyone was dumbfounded. The group of ferocious people just now was about to snatch away their flying soldiers. However, in the blink of an eye, they all died in front of them. This seemingly polite young man did not make a move. Once he made a move, he was so decisive. Young master, thank you. Behind Lin Yu, the young woman who spoke just now swallowed her saliva. Her face was extremely pale as she spoke in a trembling voice. Lin Yu turned around and smiled faintly. I'm going to Night King City. Can you give me a ride? The more he smiled, the more afraid the others were. The group of old and weak soldiers shrank into a circle and looked at Lin Yu with fear. Don't worry. I'm a good person. Lin Yu shrugged. However, they were even more afraid. Sure. The woman nodded. Lin Yu was very satisfied. He found a spot and waited. When the others saw this, they immediately came out to clean up the corpses. The woman trembled as she walked over. Young master, thank you. Chapter 32. You just said so. Lin Yu was observing the Night King City, and casually replied. The girl took a step back in fright. It wasn't that she was timid, but Lin Yu's actions were completely disregarding human lives. Furthermore, his battle prowess was the strongest she had ever seen. She was just grabbing onto a straw to clutch at the last moment, but she didn't expect Lin Yu to be so powerful. So sorry, young master, please spare me. The girl knelt down. Lin Yu looked at her with interest and helped her up. He smiled. Don't be afraid, am I that scary? The girl immediately shook her head. No. Lin Yu let go of her. Although he didn't have a deep understanding of this girl, he had seen her a few times in the past 100,000 years. Miss Luo, what's your full name? Lin Yu rubbed his chin and recalled. The girl didn't expect him to know her and immediately replied, Luo Shui, young master, my name is Luo Shui. This warship should belong to Flying Cloud Merchant Association, right? Lin Yu asked again. As expected, the other party knew everything. Luo Shui immediately nodded. Yes, the one young master just killed was our vice president. Lin Yu frowned. Did I do something wrong? Luo Shui's body trembled and immediately shook her head. Young master didn't do anything wrong. The vice president colluded with the warship bandits and tried to chase me and the other old crew members away. Fortunately, young master saved us, otherwise... Luo Shui lowered her head and didn't dare to continue. Lin Yu smiled. Otherwise, you would have to accompany him tonight? Luo Shui's face turned red and she nodded in shame. Then how are you going to thank me for helping you so much? Lin Yu joked. Luo Shui jumped in fright and quickly knelt down. Young master, spare me. Lin Yu could tell that the other party was truly frightened. Moreover, as the president, she had no choice but to look for Lin Yu. If Luo Shui was a nobody, she might be like the others, seemingly cleaning up the corpses, but in reality, she had been observing Lin Yu's every move. Get up. I'm just asking casually. Killing you all is just a matter of a thought, Lin Yu said indifferently. Luo Shui nodded and stood up, trembling. She had seen Lin Yu's ability just now and knew that what he said was true. Lin Yu took a closer look at her. Her skin was fair, and she looked like she was in her early 20s. However, she looked more mature than Yang Qing. You're married? Lin Yu asked curiously. Luo Shui nodded. My husband died on the night of my wedding. Lin Yu couldn't help but laugh. You're that powerful? Luo Shui's face turned red and she shook her head. No, my husband died because the Flying Cloud merchant ship was invaded by bandits. He killed the bandits but was killed by them. Luo Shui couldn't help but gritted her teeth and said, I didn't expect the vice president to collude with bandits. He knew that the Flying Cloud merchant ship and the bandits wouldn't give up. Lin Yu knew that not everyone in the universe was loyal to the sections. However, there were still many rogue cultivators. These rogue cultivators would form their own merchant association and trade in Glorybot. They would use the Glorybot they earned to buy treasures for cultivation. There were also some who had evil intentions and became space bandit. They would target the merchant ships to steal the Glorybot to make quick money. Luo Shui regained her senses and lowered her head. I've said too much. Lin Yu shrugged. It's okay. I'm not the bad guy you think I am. Relax. Luo Shui nodded and changed the topic. Young master, are you going to the Night King City auction? That's right. The auction should be held tomorrow. Most of the strangers who appeared outside the Night King City were here for the auction. The Night King City's auction is held once every 100 years. Only 10 treasures will be auctioned each time. Moreover, each of them is a treasure of the Northern Territory. Luo Shui couldn't help but say. Lin Yu shrugged. Not to the extent of treasures. However, there is indeed something interesting. Lin Yu didn't say much. The greatest treasure of the Northern Territory star field was hidden in the Dao River. The rest were already monopolized by the three kings. Only the egg fell into the hands of the Night King City because of its uniqueness. Lin Yu knew that there weren't many opportunities like this. This was also the reason why he came. You don't look like you're here for the auction, Lin Yu said. Luo Shui nodded. Young master, you're amazing. This time, we're here to send someone to each other. As for the auction, it's a place for the big shots to compete with their wealth. Our company hasn't reached that level yet. Lin Yu saw the yearning and envy in her eyes. Lin Yu smiled. Do you want to go? Luo Shui was stunned. Her heart was beating fast, but she honestly said, yes. Our small companies have always wanted to go to such high-level events, but I can't go. She glanced at the dozen people behind her. These people were slow and had low cultivation. Luo Shui looked at Lin Yu and said, They're my husband's company. Now that we're all old, I have to take care of them. Lin Yu knew that everyone had their own destiny, so he didn't say anything more. But at this moment, a girl ran towards Lin Yu. Big brother, you're so handsome. The girl looked like she was 6 or 7 years old. Standing in front of Lin Yu, she didn't even reach his waist. At this moment, she hugged Lin Yu's leg. Big brother, play with me. Luo Shui immediately said, Big brother is busy. I can't. Luo Shui then explained to Lin Yu, Young master, please forgive her. Her name is Shan. She's the person we're escorting to Night King City. It's okay. Lin Yu's eyes lit up. He squatted down and looked into the girl's eyes. Look at my eyes first. The girl nodded excitedly. Then, her body shook. Luo Shui was startled. But soon Lin Yu smiled. Interesting. I didn't expect to meet you here. Lin Yu smiled. Big brother will play with you. A few hours later, the Flying Cloud merchant ship approached Night King City. There were 2 city gates. Young master, please forgive us. Our ship can only go through the side gate. Luo Shui said apologetically. Lin Yu shrugged. He didn't care about this. Nanking City's city gate had a big one and a small one. The big one was 100 feet tall. It was formed by 200 feet tall pillars. The small gate was only 30 feet tall. Forces with low status in the north could only pass through the small gate. Lin Yu remembered that there was an ability to test one's potential at Nanking City's big gate. So far, only a few people had a potential score of more than 5,000 feet. Of course, some hidden peerless experts didn't come to test their potential. The flying cloud merchant ship slowly approached the small city gate. All of a sudden, above the city gates, the sound of wind whistling could be heard. Luo Shui and the others looked up and saw a warship 10 times bigger than the flying cloud merchant ship descending from the sky. On the warship, a young man stood at the bow. He was wearing a brocade robe and looked very rich. Behind him were 3 old men. Each of them had a strong aura. It was obvious that their cultivation was very high. Chapter 33. President, we need to avoid them. They are from Lightning Cloud sect. Stop first. Let them go in first. If they anger Lightning Cloud sect, we will all die. The people on Flying Cloud merchant ship panicked. Even though the 2 ships went through different gates, they didn't dare to go in together with the giant ship. When Lin Yu saw the Flying Cloud merchant ship retreating for no reason, he couldn't help but feel a little helpless. But he remembered that there were still a few more hours before they entered the core region of Nanking City. He could only bear with it. Young Master Lei, I heard that Nanking City's gate has the ability to test potential. Do you want to try? On the giant ship, there was a huge flag with the word Lei on it. When the rest of the people saw the words on the warship, they all opened up a path. In front of the gate, the Nanking City's guards shouted, "What flying cloud merchant ship? Back off." Luo Shui frowned. They had already stopped, but they were still stepped on. The people on Flying Cloud merchant ship were shocked. A few elders shouted, "Back off! Back off, quickly back off! Sorry, we will leave now." They retreated a few feet for no reason. On the Lightning Cloud sect ship, the man called Young Master Lei sneered. This kind of thing used to trick kids. This young master has 3,000 feet of potential light. Not only that, I heard that those ordinary sects have 3,000 feet. The strongest record in Nanking City is Nanking City Lord Jun Wushang's 9,000 feet. I heard that no one in the North region can break it. Lei Zong's eyes flashed. No one in the North region can break it. As soon as he said that, Lei Zong stepped into the air. Light shadows appeared under his feet. There were 7 lights. 7 ignited wheel. This person is indeed the young master of Lightning Cloud sect. He has 7 ignited wheel at such a young age. Lightning Cloud sect is one of the top sects in the North region. Lei Zong is the future master of Lightning Cloud sect. The resources he has since he was young is something we can't get in our lifetime. That's right. What resources do I have to 7 ignite wheel too? The surrounding people were discussing. Even Flying Cloud merchant ship was exclaiming. Lin Yu smiled lightly. He didn't have any impression of Lei Zong, but his father, Lin Yu, knew many secrets. President. At this time, an old man from the Flying Cloud merchant ship walked up to Luo Shui and said, "President, I heard that Lei Zong has many connections in the North Starfield. Why don't you go and greet him? Yeah, let's make friends. Maybe we'll have a good life in the future." Another old woman echoed. "But I heard that Lei Zong is extremely lecherous. Any woman that he takes a fancy to will run away," said a middle-aged man. The old man immediately glared at him and said, "The president can protect himself. Is there a need for you to say more?" Elder Xiao, let me take a look at this matter again. Luo Shui also had a difficult expression. The Lightning Cloud sect wasn't to be trifled with, and Lei Zong was notorious. If they went up to curry favor, they might really get into trouble. Humph, after my disciple died, this is how you become the president? Elder Shao was unhappy. We old things worked hard to build the Flying Cloud merchant ship back then. But after you became the president, the merchant ship decreased year after year. There are only a few people left in the ship? Another old man snorted. Brother Shao, forget it. I don't think she wants to fight for the former president. Luo Shui gritted her teeth but couldn't say anything. I think it's better to let the vice president be the president. He's ambitious. Maybe our Flying Cloud merchant ship will have a bright future. Luo Shui gritted her teeth. The vice president colluded with bandits. If he becomes the president, everything here will be taken away by him. All of you. The old men glanced at Luo Shui in disdain. Obviously, they wouldn't listen to anything and just wanted to force Luo Shui to curry favor with the Lightning Cloud sect. If she doesn't go, we'll go ourselves. That's right. Lei Zong stepped into the city gate and stood with his hands behind his back. He said to the city guards beside the gate, "Start the test. I want to break your city lord's record." How could the Night King City's city guards not recognize him, but they just laughed in disdain. Break the city lord's record? They were just waiting for Lei Zong to make a fool of himself. Above the city gate, a white light pillar suddenly descended. Lei Zong felt like he was surrounded by white light and he couldn't see the outside world. The white light was like dazzling energy that flowed around his body. Especially in between his brows, it lingered around. The light pillars on both sides of the city gate suddenly shone brightly. The light shot into the sky and instantly exceeded 500 feet, 800, 1,000, 3,000. Good, young sect leader, good job. Young Master Lei, good luck. At the back, the Lightning Cloud sect people kept on sucking up. Lei Zong gritted his teeth in the light pillar. He felt the white light getting stronger and stronger. Even if he used his 7-flame wheel cultivation, it was useless. Lei Zong knew he was at his limit. The white light seemed to be forcing him to leave. 4,000 feet, 4,000 feet, young Master Lei will definitely break Monarch Wushang's record. Lei Zong cursed in his heart. He had bragged too much this time. This place was much harder than he thought. He braced himself and endured it, but spat out a mouthful of blood. In the outside world, everyone also saw that the resplendent light pillar of potential stopped at 4,000 feet and stopped moving. Lei Zong felt embarrassed. How could he face the people outside now? At this moment, the old man from Flying Cloud merchant ship came to the city gate. The old man said in shock, "Young Master Lei is amazing. This time, you will definitely shock the North Starfield." The old woman said, "Young Master Lei, we are from Flying Cloud merchant ship. We are here to congratulate young Master Lei." Damn. Lei Zong was worried about not having a way out. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the white light and grabbed the old woman's throat. "You made me unable to concentrate and almost went mad. You all deserve to die." Lei Zong's figure appeared from the white light and didn't give the old woman a chance to breathe. "Be careful." Luo Shui was frightened. Just as she was about to run out, she was stopped by the others. "President, don't let them drag us down." Lin Yu smiled faintly. This group of old and weak soldiers was really interesting. Gotcha. The old woman's throat was broken by Lei Zong. The old man was so scared that his legs trembled, and he didn't dare to run away. "Young Master Lei, please spare us. We won't dare to do it again." He knelt down. He didn't know that his bootlicking would interfere with Lei Zong's potential test. He was in big trouble now. Lei Zong smirked and stepped down. The old man's bones were shattered and his body fell to the ground. He didn't move anymore. "Elder Shao." Luo Shui's voice was hoarse. "President, don't make a sound. If Lightning Cloud sect implicates us, we will be finished. President, the big picture is more important." Lei Zong kicked the two corpses away. He scoffed, "I almost broke the record. If it wasn't for you two interrupting me." He looked at the 4,000 feet light pillar and spat on the corpses. He thought to himself, I was worried about not having a way out, idiot. Chapter 34. When Lei Zong returned to the ship, everyone could tell that he was at his limit, but no one dared to expose him. Someone even said, "Young Master Lei is already in a bad state because of them. It's not suitable for you to go again. Yeah, let's give Night King City some face this time. Let Jun Wushang's record stay for a while longer." Lei Zong said in disdain, "Forget it, I'm not in the mood today." Behind the Lightning Cloud Sex battleship was another huge battleship. However, there was a man and a woman on this battleship. The woman had a cold expression and her face was as cold as ice. She was dressed in white and stood at the front of the ship. The dozens of people behind her were all respectful and didn't dare to look at her. Beside the woman, a young man said, "Mingyue, what's there to look at?" Yi Mingyue shook her head and didn't even look at the young man. "I'm looking at the Flying Cloud merchant ship behind." The young man smiled. "You're interested in that 9-stream merchant ship?" Yi Mingyue was not looking at anyone else on the Flying Cloud merchant ship, but Lin Yu. Their people are dead, but he doesn't have any emotions. Yi Mingyue looked at Lin Yu. He's terrifyingly calm. When the young man heard this, he said unhappily, "Maybe he's just scared silly. How strong can the people above 9-stream merchant ship be?" Yi Mingyue frowned. "Young Masterling, you better learn how to judge people. Otherwise, you'll suffer in the future." Ling Feng's heart froze. This was the first time he was lectured by Yi Mingyue like this. Although he had been following her and Yi Mingyue was like a piece of ice that kept him at a distance, she was still polite. But now, she was treating him like this because of 9-stream merchant ship. Ling Feng smiled coldly and shouted, "Little Lei Zong, are you just going to let it go after 9-stream merchant ship's people?" Yi Mingyue narrowed her eyes. She didn't expect Ling Feng to be angry at Flying Cloud merchant ship. Lei Zong's heart tightened and he just noticed the huge ship behind. Ling Feng from Sky Ascension Hall. The person beside Lei Zong said softly, "Young Master Lei, shouldn't we go first?" Lei Zong frowned and snorted, "Can't you tell? Ling Feng is looking down on me." Lei Zong punched the guardrail at the bow of the ship. "Bring me the Chamber of Commerce that was causing trouble just now." "Yes." The servant immediately went forward. Seeing this, everyone in the Flying Cloud Commerce was shocked. "Lightning Cloud Sect, what are your orders?" Luo Shui swallowed her saliva. She was in trouble. They had already given in. Lin Yu shrugged, only to hear the other party say, "What are you wasting your breath for? Our junior sect leader wants to see you, how dare you resist?" Luo Shui clenched her fist. The person behind her immediately said, "Big brother, please don't take offense. How would we dare to disobey young Master Lei's orders? President, let's go. We can't afford to offend Thundercloud Sect." Luo Shui could only nod helplessly. The messenger sneered, "As expected of a 9th-rate force. 2 of their people have already died, yet they don't even dare to fart." Flying Cloud Trade Association's people came to the side of Lightning Cloud Sect's warship. Lei Zong looked down and said, "Your people dared to interfere with my potential test. How should I punish you?" Luo Shui immediately cupped her fists and said, "Junior Sect Leader Lei, please forgive us. Our people made an unintentional mistake, and now they have already paid the price. Can you, no need to say any more. None of you will live today." Lei Zong said coldly. Luo Shui and the rest's expression changed. In the distance, Yi Mingyue observed the situation of Flying Cloud Trade Association's ship and found that Lin Yu was still calm. "He's not afraid of Lei Zong?" Ling Feng snorted. "I think he's just too scared to move. You're a bad person. You clearly failed the test. It's not our fault at all." The one who spoke was Shan Er. She stood beside Lin Yu and pointed at Lei Zong. "Shut up, this stupid child. Junior Sect Leader Lei, please forgive us. We don't know this child, and it has nothing to do with us." Lei Zong was furious. He thought to himself, "This matter is already over. This trade association actually dares to make things difficult for me? Good nine-stream chamber of commerce. Even a child dares to step on my head. Lei Zong stepped into the air and walked into the city gate again. He smiled and said, "You won't have the chance to walk through this gate in your lifetime, but I'll give you a chance today." He stepped down and a white light fell from the city gate. "Bring this group of people in." The moment Lei Zong's voice fell, everyone on the Lightning Cloud Sect's ship activated their glory chi and bombarded the back of Flying Cloud Trade Association's ship. With a rumble, the ship moved forward. Luo Xue and the rest wanted to stop it, but they couldn't. In the blink of an eye, the ship disappeared into the white light. Lei Zong's voice spread in all directions. "Today, I challenge all of you. A bunch of trash dared to offend me. Don't even think about leaving." As soon as his voice fell, the white light enveloped everyone. In an instant, the light pillar shot up 3,000 feet. Lei Zong had already adapted to the pressure, but everyone on Flying Cloud Trade Association spat out blood. "My shoulders are so heavy. I can't breathe. It's over, it's all over today. That brat, it's all her fault for talking too much." The two people on the ship wanted to vent their anger on Shan but before they could get close, they spat out blood. Shan-Er's face was also filled with pain. At this moment, a hand pressed on her shoulder. Instantly, Shan felt the pressure on her body disappear. She looked up and saw Lin Yu smiling. "Big brother, you're so strong." Shan felt a suction force from Lin Yu's hand on her shoulder, absorbing all the white light on her body. Luo Xue leaned on the railing and spat out blood too. "Die for me." Lei Zong had suffered a lot because of Shan and Ling Feng. Now, he had decided to bury Flying Cloud Trade Association with him. The pressure rose again, 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet. It reached Lei Zong's limit again. Someone on Flying Cloud Trade Association wanted to drive the ship away, but a formation came from the Lightning Cloud Sect's ship and actually sealed the city gate. Night King City's guards were unhappy when they saw this. After all, this was their territory. But Lightning Cloud Sect didn't do anything. Night King City wouldn't offend Lightning Cloud Sect to deal with someone from 9 Stream Chamber of Commerce. In the distance, Yi Mingyue frowned. She wanted to stop them, but Ling Feng stopped her. "Mingyue, just let them do what they want. Moreover, that guy, if he has the ability, he can come out. If he doesn't, then he deserves to die inside." Ling Feng sneered. Yi Mingyue's face was filled with anger. She knew that these people were killed by Ling Feng. Within the white light, everyone was heavily injured on the ground. Even Luo Xue was on the ground. Now, only Lin Yu and Shan were still standing comfortably. "It's a bit of a waste of my time," Lin Yu said plainly. His right hand was still on Shan-Er's shoulder. He raised his left hand and placed it on the railing of the ship. In an instant, a terrifying suction force spiraled up from the deck and soared into the sky like a storm. Chapter 35. At this moment, the pressure on Luo Xue and the dozen people on the merchant ship all disappeared. They looked up and saw that the white light around the merchant ship was all coming towards Lin Yu. "Big brother, you're in danger." Shan was shocked. Lin Yu smiled faintly. "Step back a little, I'm going to use my strength." Shan obediently stepped back. Luo Xue and the rest stared with their eyes wide open. These white lights, just a little bit was enough to make them embarrassed. But now that they gathered on Lin Yu, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. On the other hand, Lin Yu not only didn't feel any pain from the pressure, but he was still as calm as ever. Lin Yu shrugged. "I also want to try how much potential I have after coming out." He remembered that in the 100,000 years, he had come here several times out of curiosity. The first time he came, Lin Yu's potential light was only 5,000 feet. That was the 5th year he was trapped. The second time he came, his potential light had reached 10,000 feet. That was the 10th year he was trapped. Might as well be a little more flamboyant and let the people in charge of Night King City notice me. After Lin Yu finished speaking, the white light on his body skyrocketed again. 3 feet ahead, Lei Zong only felt the white light around him increase in pressure. How is this possible? 4,000 feet is my limit. He widened his eyes and saw that the flying cloud merchant ship had absorbed all the white light on his side. It was also at this moment that Lei Zong spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Damn it! Whose potential light? He finally knew that he was no longer in charge of the white light, because someone's potential had surpassed his. In the outside world, just as the lightning cloud sect and Ling Feng were waiting for the white light to disappear and the corpse of the flying cloud merchant ship appeared, they all raised their heads. The loud sound was monstrous. They saw the 2 stone pillars of the city gate constantly shaking, and the potential light beam above was skyrocketing. Rather than skyrocketing, it was better to say that it was soaring into the sky. What the hell, am I seeing things? It was only 4,000 feet just now, why is it 8,000 feet now? Not only that, it's still rising. This is crazy. Could it be that young Master Lei is really going to break Jun Wushang's record? Yi Mingyue's cold face also froze. Her pupils dilated as she watched the light beam break through 10,000 feet. Broken! He broke father's record. Yi Mingyue murmured. Ling Feng was also shocked for a long time before he regained his senses. Lei Zong, that bastard, when did he become so powerful? They couldn't see that within the white light, Lei Zong's entire body was bleeding, and his aura was extremely weak. Young Master Lei, you can't. Young Master Lei is about to die. Sir, please stop. We're finished if we offend the lightning cloud sect. When the flying cloud merchant ship saw Lei Zong fall to the ground, they were so scared that they immediately wanted to stop Lin Yu. Lin Yu smiled faintly. What does his death have to do with me? As soon as he finished speaking, the outside world saw the light pillar rise to 20,000 feet. In Night King City, inside a magnificent pavilion, a white-robed old man suddenly opened his eyes. In front of the hall he was in, a man anxiously ran in. Elder Xing He, someone broke the city lord's record. The old man had a sage-like appearance. He stood up and stepped into the air, using ground shrink. He appeared outside the hall and looked at the city gate in the distance. 20,000 feet of potential. Could it be that the successor of one of those hidden sects has arrived? He was under Night King City's lord and was in charge of the daily operations of Night King City. The city lord will only come out tomorrow. Come with me to see who it is. The man immediately bowed. Yes. Xing He stopped him. Wait, inform our people to not offend the person in the white light. Those who disobey will be killed. Yes, Elder. Xing He leaped into the air. Within Night King City, everyone's attention was drawn to the dazzling beam of light that shot into the sky. However, they didn't know that within the light pillar, Lei Zong was begging for mercy. Let me go, no matter who you are, let me go and I can promise you anything. Other than Luo Shui and Shan everyone on Flying Cloud merchant ship knelt to Lin Yu, begging Lin Yu to let Lei Zong go. It wasn't that they didn't hate Lei Zong, but they didn't dare to resist. Lin Yu smiled faintly and let go. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Lei Zong stood up and raised his head to meet Lin Yu's gaze. Lin Yu smiled coldly and pressed his hand down again. Rumble! The overwhelming pressure pressed down on Lei Zong, causing the ground to crack. Lei Zong's bones were crushed, and he fell to the bottom of the warship, motionless. Lin Yu shrugged. So this light can kill. Why didn't I think of it before? What a failure! The white light dissipated. Lightning Cloud Sect's ship was prepared to suck up to Lei Zong, but they didn't expect it to be Flying Cloud merchant ship. They were shocked. When they lowered their heads and saw Lei Zong lying on the ground with his eyes wide open like a dead man, they trembled and took a few steps back, as if their souls had left their bodies. Young Master Lei, how did young Master Lei die? It's over. If the sect master blames us, we'll all die. On Lightning Cloud Sect's ship, the two old men in the lead suddenly emitted a horrifying aura fluctuation. The two of them stepped into the air with a sun phantom floating above their head. They were two transcendent realm experts. Who killed the young sect master? Come out and accept your death. The two of them locked their gazes on the flying cloud merchant ship at the same time. The person with the weaker cultivation base spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard this. This group of people immediately pointed at Linyu. Master, he did it. He killed the young sect master. It has nothing to do with us. Master, please spare our lives. The pressure was getting stronger because of him. We don't know what happened, and the young sect master died. Linyu shrugged. If it weren't for the fact that he had boarded their warship and owed them a favor, he would have killed this group of people right now. Shut up. If it weren't for the young master, you would be dead. Luo Shui couldn't help but rage. Big brother. Shan pulled Lin Yu's sleeves and suddenly stood in front of Lin Yu. Big brother, don't be afraid. I'll protect you. Lin Yu smiled and patted her head. Don't worry. It's just a small matter. Luo Shui stood in front of Lin Yu and gritted her teeth while enduring the pressure of the two transcendent realm experts. She said softly, Young master, leave first. We'll hold them back. Lin Yu looked at Luo Shui with interest. He didn't expect this woman to be so loyal. It's a pity for you to stay on this ship. Are you willing to leave with me? Luo Shui was stunned. Young master saved the flying cloud merchant ship, but we treated you like this. Luo Shui is sorry. Lin Yu saw her guilty face and knew it wasn't the right time to say anything. He raised his head. I killed him. The two of them lowered their heads and looked at Lin Yu. They sized up Lin Yu and realized that the flying cloud merchant ship had such an expert. Big brother, this person isn't simple, one of them said in the air. Chapter 36. The other person nodded and looked at the 20,000 feet potential light pillar. Are we just going to let it go like this? Of course not. The sect master will definitely kill this person. Why don't we bring him back to the Lightning Cloud sect and let the sect master decide? Sure. The two stepped into the air at the same time. Lin Yu shrugged his shoulders. He wasn't afraid of fighting, but when he was about to make a move, he heard a cold voice. Who dares to make a move within the Night King city? A white-clothed woman's figure appeared above everyone. She stepped into the air, and the Yao Qi beneath her feet formed into a lotus shape. She was like a fairy that appeared in front of everyone. Half-step transcendent realm. Luo Shui frowned. What day is it today? First, there was the vice president's rebellion. Then, she got involved in such a huge trouble. The worst thing was that she didn't provoke anyone, but the Lightning Cloud sect took their anger out on them. This was a world where the strong were respected. The weak had no right to speak. You are? The two transcendents of the Lightning Cloud sect frowned at the same time. Yi Mingyue, the woman said faintly. Ling Feng wanted to stop her, but he couldn't stop Yi Mingyue. The two from the Lightning Cloud sect were stunned. They cupped their fists and said, So it's the Night King city's young miss. Lei Zong's corpse was already brought back to the warship by the Lightning Cloud sect. The other transcendent realm said, Our sect master came for the auction. Now that he died at the city gate, this matter. Yi Mingyue interrupted him. What does this matter have to do with the Night King city? The two were speechless. One of them couldn't help but say, Then let's bring the Flying Cloud Merchant Association's people back to the Lightning Cloud sect. The sect master will deal with them. Yi Mingyue interrupted him again. They are the guests of the Night King city. Everyone in the Lightning Cloud sect tensed up. Yi Mingyue had always been cold and arrogant. The Night King city occupied the core of the North Territory's Yao Qi. It was the true Yao Qi vein of the North Territory. This also created Yi Mingyue's unyielding personality. However, such a woman actually personally saved the Flying Cloud Merchant Association's people from the Lightning Cloud sect? Sect Master Lei's death can't be in vain. The Lightning Cloud sect wants an explanation for this matter. The two Transcendent Realm experts stepped into the air and ignored Yi Mingyue's word. Impudent! Before Yi Mingyue could say anything, dozens of Samsara Realm cultivators appeared from within the city. They stood side by side and spread out in two different directions. Everyone was trembling with fear as they had never seen such a large formation. There were a total of 50 Samsara Realm experts. Among them, a white-robed old man slowly walked out. Hee, Lightning Cloud sect sure talks big. Why would my Night King city need to answer to you? The white-robed old man half knelt down in front of Yi Mingyu. The moment he knelt down, the dozens of reincarnation experts around him knelt down as well. The white-robed elder walked straight to Yi Mingyu and bowed solemnly. Xinghe is late to welcome you. I didn't expect you to come back so early. Please forgive me. Yi Mingyue stood with her hands behind her back. With a cold expression, she said slowly, "We met the Heaven Ascension Hall's merchant ship on the way, so we took a detour and arrived a few hours earlier. Elder Xinghe, please rise." She raised her hand to signal Xing He to get up before glancing at the Lightning Cloud sect. Lei Xiaozong swaggered through the streets, forcing himself to withstand the pressure of 20,000 feet. Unfortunately, he died. I represent Night King City in expressing our regret. Elder Xinghe, I don't think the Lightning Cloud sect is in the mood to participate in the auction. Please ask them to leave. Yi Mingyu's words covered up Lei Zong's death and even ordered them to leave. Miss Yi. The two Transcendent Realm experts of the Lightning Cloud sect were enraged. However, they didn't say anything. Xinghe waved his hand, and dozens of Reincarnation Realm experts stepped into the air at the same time. They stood in front of the Lightning Cloud sect's warship and said in unison, "Lightning Cloud sect, please leave." They didn't speak normally. Instead, their voices were mixed with their Reincarnation Realm cultivation. Their cultivation wasn't strong, but there were too many of them. The overlapping voices caused the space around the city gate to fluctuate. The aura was so strong that it shocked everyone. The people on the Lightning Cloud sect's warship were the most miserable. At this moment, they spat out a mouthful of blood. Although the two Transcendent Realm experts were in a better state, their faces were gloomy to the extreme. The Lightning Cloud sect will remember this. Farewell. One of the Transcendent Realm experts snorted. The Lightning Cloud sect's warship flew into the sky and left Night King City. After the commotion, everyone's gaze fell onto the Flying Cloud Trade Association. The people on the ship were already trembling, and they couldn't speak. They were just small characters. Who knew that when they passed through the city gate, they would attract people like Xinghe and Yi Mingyue. Originally, they weren't even qualified to pass through the city gate. However, they were standing in the middle of the city gate, and everyone's gaze fell on them. Other than the people brought by Xinghe, many people in Night King City also noticed this. Before Xinghe spoke, Yi Mingyue took the lead and said to Lin Yu on the ship, "Night King City's Yi Mingyue, may I know your name?" The rest of the people on the Flying Cloud Trade Association immediately said, "Master, it's not our fault. He's not a member of our trade association." They subconsciously felt that Lin Yu had committed a huge crime. He killed the Lightning Cloud sect's young master. This crime was enough to make their trade association disappear from the North Star territory. Luo Xue gritted her teeth and said, "This is my friend. If Miss Yi has committed any crime, Luo Xue is willing to bear it. Please let the people on the Flying Cloud Trade Association go." "Big brother, don't be afraid." Shan also stood in front of Lin Yu. Yi Mingyue frowned. "So they're not with you three?" Before Luo Xue could speak, the people on the Flying Cloud Trade Association said, "No, we don't know them." Someone even whispered to Luo Xue, "President, if you're loyal, then the trade association will have nothing to do with you." Luo Xue mocked herself. so my years of hard work didn't pay off at all. In front, Xinghe stepped forward and said a few words to Yi Mingyue. Yi Mingyue nodded. In that case, the three of you are my Night King City's VIP guests. Night King City has already prepared a guest hall for the three of you. Yi Mingyue personally invited them, and it was the highest-level guest hall. That was a place where only the sect leaders of the North Star territory could stay. But now, Yi Mingyue invited Lin Yu? Esteemed guest. Guest hall. It's not a crime. Why is it like this? The people on the Flying Cloud Trade Association were stunned. Someone whispered to Luo Xue, President, what about us? Lin Yu had already stepped into the air. Luo Xue gritted her teeth and knew what Lin Yu meant. She said, the trade association has already given up on me. From now on, the Flying Cloud Trade Association has nothing to do with me. First, it was the vice president's betrayal. Then, it was these people's cowardice. She had already given up on the Flying Cloud Trade Association. President! President, take us with you. Luo Xue carried Shan. She also ignited her wheel and stepped into the air to follow Lin Yu. Lin Yu stood in front of Yi Mingyue. The latter bowed respectfully and said, May I know your name? Lin Yu smiled and approached Yi Mingyue. The latter wanted to step back, but when she looked into Lin Yu's eyes, she felt her divine will being suppressed. She couldn't fight back at all. Damn it, he dares to touch Mingyue. Kill him! Ling Feng shouted angrily when he saw Lin Yu and Yi Mingyue whispering in each other's ears. But Yi Mingyue didn't move. Lin Yu whispered in her ear, Tell Jun Wushang to see me personally. Tell him that his nemesis is here. Chapter 37. Mingyue Ye's body trembled. Lin Yu had already retracted his gaze and said to Luo Xue, Let's go. Luo Xue and Shan immediately followed. Seeing this, He instructed two samsara experts, Bring them to the guest hall. Don't let anyone disturb them. One of them asked, Do we need to protect them day and night? The so-called protection actually meant that Night King City was monitoring them. He frowned and observed Mingyue Ye's appearance. Something is wrong. Don't do that first. Yes, Elder. Mingyue Yi regained her senses. Has father come out of seclusion? He will come out tomorrow. He said softly. All right, I will inform him tomorrow. Mingyue Ye's gaze turned solemn. He knew that something was wrong and asked, Is there a problem with that person? Mingyue Yi glared at him. He chuckled and slapped his own mouth. Is Uncle Xing being silly again? How can there be no problem with a young man with potential of 20,000 feet? Mingyue Yi sighed. Her cold expression was filled with surprise and confusion. Seems like he is a big shot. The guest hall was a huge palace. Lin Yu and the other two walked in and Luo Xue saw a dazzling array of shops. There were constantly weapon fluctuations and pill fragrances in these shops. Clearly, they were all treasures that could increase one's combat strength. Night King City is indeed the core of the Glorybot trade in the north. Luo Xue sighed. But what shocked her even more was the palace made of Glorybot in front of her. I could only see this guest hall from afar. After passing through layers of guards, Luo Xue could see the guest hall up close. Just the glory chi here is 10 times denser than outside. Lin Yu shrugged noncommittally. It would be a huge loss if something built with Yao Qi doesn't have such a high concentration. Luo Xue nodded. Lin Yu entered the hall and the two people following him said respectfully, Esteemed guest, do you have any other instructions? Lin Yu said calmly, When will the auction begin? One of them immediately replied, There are still 4 hours left. Lin Yu waved his hand and the two of them left with their heads lowered. Let's assign the rooms and go out for a walk. Lin Yu chose a room for himself. The room was filled with rich Yao Qi, and Lin Yu felt that he could make good use of it. Luo Xue and Shan shared a room, right next to Lin Yu. This place was huge, but there was no one else here. It could be seen that the guest hall was really exclusive to the top sect masters. However, there were no sect masters present at the auction. Lin Yu closed the door and took out a storage ring in his hand. He instantly crushed it, and the glory bot entered his storage ring. With a sweep of his spiritual will, he found a total of 300 million glory bot. This storage ring belonged to Lei Zong. He killed Lei Zong because Lei Zong wanted to kill him. Such a person was useless even if he didn't die. Lin Yu sat down cross-legged. In a place like Night King City, he needed to maintain his battle prowess at all times. But before he could even enter the state, there was a knock on the door. Ming Yu Yi requests to see young master. Come in. Ming Yu Yi opened the door and entered. She was dressed in a gauze dress. Compared to the travel-worn look she had when she was outside the city gates, she was even more lively and beautiful now. Miss Ye's beauty is enough to be ranked top 3 in the northern starfield, Lin Yu said. Ming Yu Yi was stunned. If other men said that, she would definitely feel that it was frivolous and she wouldn't bother with them. But Lin Yu's eyes didn't have any lust for men. Instead, there was a kind of appreciation. It was a kind of appreciation from above, as if a superior was praising his subordinates and subjects. Ming Yu Yi, you still don't know young master's name? Ming Yu Yi bowed and said politely. Lin Yu knew this woman's characteristics, every single one of them. Thinking back to 100,000 years ago, Ming Yu Yi had also obtained it. But now, he was the only one who knew about it. Only he had the memories of 100,000 years. Many women, old friends, he had forgotten. Lin Yu. Ming Yu Yi smiled. Greetings, young Master Lin. I'll have to trouble Miss Ming Yu for tonight's auction. Ming Yu Yi was stunned. She didn't expect Lin Yu to know about this. The auction was held once in 100 years. She had never hosted it before and she wasn't that old. But this year, Night Lord Jun Wushang hadn't finished his seclusion yet, so she hosted it on behalf of him. But before Ming Yu Yi could recover from her shock, she heard Lin Yu smile again. Jun Wushang should come out tomorrow. There's something wrong with his mixed yuan art. He's been doing useless things in seclusion every day. Ming Yu Ye's beautiful face immediately froze. Young Master Lin knows about the mixed yuan art? Do you know my father? Kind of. Just tell him that I'm here to make a deal with him. Lin Yu came to Nightlord City to get the egg and the key to the Dao River. Also, in this world, if he wanted to become stronger, he needed friends. Some friends worth making. These friends could bring him different kinds of help. Nightlord Jun Wushang was one of them. Okay, I'll report to my father as soon as he comes out tomorrow. Lin Yu nodded with satisfaction. I just don't know which sect young Master Lin is from. With young Master's potential, there's no second person in the north. Lin Yu smiled. The north is very big. You've seen too few people. Ming Yu Yi didn't like being lectured, but Lin Yu's tone was as deep as an emperor's, as if everything he said was the truth. How could a teenager have such a temperament? Young Master is right. Ming Yu Yi seemed to have something else to say. Lin Yu asked her to leave. Miss Yi, you should have other things to deal with. Those top sex leaders are almost here, so I won't see you out. This was the first time someone asked her to leave. Ming Yu Yi was stunned for a long time before she bowed and said, Then Ming Yu won't disturb young Master. The door slowly closed. Lin Yu heard Ming Yu Ye's footsteps and smiled. A familiar woman. Outside the guest hall, Ming Yu Yi rushed out angrily. Ling Feng, who was outside, also found out about Ming Yu Ye's whereabouts and was waiting outside. Seeing Ming Yu Yi come out, he immediately came to greet her. Miss Ming Yu, who is the person inside? Go away. Ming Yu Yi said coldly. There were many people around, and Ling Feng's face was burning from being treated like that. But he saw Ming Yu Yi waving her hand and leaving. Damn it, I've never seen Ming Yu so angry. Ling Feng thought. The follower beside him immediately said, I saw that the kid was disrespectful to Miss Yi outside the city. Did he do that to Miss Yi inside? If he dares, I'll kill him. Ling Feng gritted his teeth. He had chased after Ming Yuyi for a few years. Everyone knew that if she was stolen now, Ling Feng wouldn't mind biting off a few pieces of meat to vent his anger. Do you want me to go and investigate? Let's talk about it after tonight. Is the dazzling bait ready? The hall has brought it over. Tonight, young master will definitely be able to suppress everyone. Ling Feng smiled coldly and followed Ming Yuyi. Chapter 38. In the guest hall, Lin Yu sat cross-legged and adjusted his unstable cultivation due to the journey. In reality, his cultivation progress was too fast. Fortunately, the white light of potential had a moderating effect, allowing him to calm down a lot. However, Lin Yu would not slow down his cultivation speed. He knew that there were more powerful people in the universe. His current strength was far inferior to these people. At this moment there was another knock on the door. Lin Yu used his divine telekinesis to check Luo Xue's aura. He said, "Come in." Luo Xue opened the door and came in. Like Yi Mingyue, she had changed her clothes. Her figure was already hot. Now, her clothes were tighter than before, showing off her curvaceous figure. The charm of a mature woman hit him in the face. Luo Xue bowed to Lin Yu and said, "Young master, I'm bringing Shan to meet the client." Lin Yu just remembered this. Although Luo Xue had left the Flying Cloud merchant ship, Shan was still with her. "I'll go with you." Lin Yu stood up and stretched. He was in perfect condition now. The auction was about to begin. He could go directly. Luo Xue nodded happily and brought Shan out of the guest hall. "Where's the client?" "In the middle of 3rd Street. Luo Xue said. However, the people on the merchant ship are also staying there. Lin Yu shrugged. He did not comment. This had nothing to do with him. Along the way, Lin Yu saw the bustling streets. In particular, there were often people gathering outside. That was the venue of the auction. However, it was not open yet, but many people were already there. Lin Yu came to 3rd Street. Luo Xue brought Shan in. Shan hugged Lin Yu's leg. "Big brother, will you come and play with me again?" Lin Yu smiled. "You're very special. Cultivate well. We'll meet again." Shan repeated Lin Yu's words. "Cultivate well, then," she nodded heavily. "But the people inside are so scary. They bought me." "By?" Lin Yu didn't know about these trivial matters. "I thought they were your parents." Luo Xue was also surprised as she explained to Lin Yu, "Young Master Lin, I didn't know about this." Lin Yu shrugged. Luo Xue looked helpless, but she had promised someone to escort Shan so she had to bring Shan up first. Lin Yu followed suit. The difference between this inn and the guest hall was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, the difference in size was more than 10 times, and this did not include the density of the obsidian chi. Luo Xue followed the route in her memory and walked to the north of the inn. Suddenly, she heard an angry shout, "Flying Cloud merchant ship, it's over today. What the f***ck? How dare you come to our 7 Absolute Sect's doorstep when you didn't see the goods? Kill them!" Luo Xue jumped in fright. She saw a group of fiendish people stepping on the 2 elders of the Flying Cloud merchant ship. The rest of the people knelt there, not daring to move. "Stop!" Luo Xue ran over. Shan is here." There were 5 men and 1 woman from the 7 Absolute Sect. When they saw Shan behind Luo Xue, one of them said to the leader, "Big brother, it's her." "All right, bring her over." The leader leaped forward and grabbed Shan. Shan jumped in fright as she was grabbed by the shoulder and flew over. "I'll leave Shan to you. Where's our obsidian bot?" Luo Xue asked. The 7 Absolutes sect members heard and laughed. "You dare to ask for something from us?" The leader looked at Luo Xue. "This girl is pretty. You're their president, right?" Luo Xue didn't want to admit it, but when the crew saw Luo Xue and Lin Yu, they looked relieved. Someone immediately said, "He's our president." Luo Xue frowned. The leader of the 7 Absolutes sect said, My name is Yang Jing. I'm the eldest senior brother of the Seven Absolutes sect. You're lucky to have caught my eye. I'll take you away. Luo Shuiyi's expression changed as she took a few steps back. Yang Jing didn't make a move, but the two people behind him attacked at the same time. Luo Shuiyi didn't expect this group of people to not only refuse to give her the obsidian bot, but also attack her. She immediately unleashed her cultivation and ignited her chakra. Obsidian chi gathered in her hand. With a bang, the two people were hit by the palm force and flew out. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Yang Jing laughed. The more powerful Luo Shuiyi was, the more excited he was. He immediately charged over at a speed several times faster than the two people from before. Luo Shuiyi was circulating her cultivation. She had just broken through to the Samsara realm and was not familiar with it yet. Just as she was about to dodge, she saw Yang Jing raise his hand and his 5 fingers turned into claws. Immediately, numerous afterimages appeared. Thousand-hand shadow. Yang Jing shouted and the afterimages attacked Luo Shuiyi at the same time. Luo Shuiyi gathered her obsidian chi in her palms and clashed with Yang Jing's attack. However, Yang Jing's afterimages were all fake and she felt a sharp pain on her back. The real palm force was behind her. Pooh! Luo Shuiyi spurted out a mouthful of blood and took a few steps back. Bastard, you people from the Seven Absolute sect are too much. So what? Yang Jing grabbed Luo Shuiyi's hand. The people behind him asked, Big brother, what about the rest? Yang Jing sneered, a bunch of old and weak soldiers. It's useless even if they don't die. Let's go. He knew that this was the territory of the Night King City. Many people in the inn looked over. Although no one stopped them, it would be troublesome if they attracted the attention of the Night King City. Just as they were about to leave, they saw a young man blocking their path. Get lost! The people from the Seven Absolutes sect shouted. However, the young man smiled and Yang Jing said angrily, Are you courting death? Lin Yu shrugged, You talk too much. The people from the Seven Absolutes sect looked at each other. Yang Jing said, Kill him. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 of them attacked Lin Yu. However, they felt a sharp pain in their head. Before they could even touch Lin Yu, they were already lying on the ground. What's going on? Something's wrong. Let's attack together. Yang Jing's heart tightened. He shook off Luo Shuiyi and Shan and attacked Lin Yu at the same time. Lin Yu's expression was cold. He activated the soul-devouring grand art and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already pressing his hand on Yang Jing's head. Yang Jing's expression changed drastically. He suddenly felt that his divine sense was being sucked away by Lin Yu. Big brother, I'm from the Seven Absolutes sect. If you let me go, we'll be friends from now on. Yang Jing felt a sharp pain in his head. The people behind him followed, but they were all stopped by the suction force from Yang Jing's body. For a moment, everyone from the Seven Absolutes sect stood in a line. Starting from where Yang Jing was, their divine senses were all sucked away. Friends? You think you're worthy? Lin Yu smiled faintly. Yang Jing was shocked. Big brother, please spare me. I was blind. I didn't know there was an expert here. We were wrong. Luo Shuiyi, Shan and the others were shocked. This was the second time they saw Lin Yu attack. Chapter 39. Even if the Seven Invincible sect was more powerful than the previous vice president, they were nothing in front of Lin Yu. Lin Yu's lips curled up as he activated the soul-devouring technique to the extreme. His clothes fluttered without any wind. A purple furnace Lord Phantom appeared between his eyebrows. Yang Jing roared. He thought the flying cloud merchant ship was a bunch of pushovers. Who knew that he would kick an iron plate this time? Damn it, I'm the eldest senior brother of the Seven Invincible sect. I am the sect master's illegitimate son. How dare you kill me? Yang Jing's hair stood on end, but Lin Yu ignored his threat. The Grand Sun primordial flame exploded. No! He felt his divine will being suppressed by Lin Yu's soul-devouring technique. He couldn't move at all. In an instant, he became a corpse. Lin Yu waved his hand again, and the Grand Sun primordial flame swept across. While Luo Xue and the others were trembling, Yang Zheng and the people behind him were swallowed by the flames. In the blink of an eye, they were all paralyzed on the ground. Lin Yu activated the soul-devouring technique. Others couldn't see the divine will of the corpses, but he could. After a while, he stretched and felt that his divine will had reached more than 900 years. He had absorbed many small fries in the past 2 days, so his progress was quite good. His soul-devouring technique could only absorb opponents in the divine will salvation realm. This was also the limitation of the divine will Great Emperor's technique. If he absorbed beyond his realm, he would be unable to withstand the powerful divine will and explode. Moreover, in the process of absorbing the soul-devouring grand technique, it would erase all of the other party's memories. Therefore, Lin Yu could only absorb the divine will, which was not 100%. Lin Yu looked at his hand. Luo Xue and the others on the Flying Cloud merchant ship thought he was looking at something, but they soon heard Lin Yu ask, "Do you have a handkerchief?" It turned out that Yang Zheng's head was a little dirty and had touched him. When he said that, the old and weak soldiers on the Flying Cloud merchant ship trembled in fear. How could he be so calm after killing a group of people? The calmer he was, the more the others felt that this young man had killed people like scything flax. He was terrifying to the extreme. Luo Xue handed him a handkerchief. Lin Yu wiped his hands and collected the storage rings of the group of people on the ground before saying, "If there's nothing else, let's go." He glanced at Shan who had already run over to hold his hand. When Luo Xue came back to her senses, she heard the people on the merchant ship behind her say, "President, I heard that you're living in the guest hall. Bring us there to take a look." "That's right, guild leader. These people are too scary." Luo Xueyi's eyes were filled with disgust. It was only today that she saw these people clearly. She quickened her pace and ran out to catch up with Lin Yu. At this moment, it was almost dusk in Night King City. As Lin Yu left, the people in the inn were paying attention to him, but no one dared to make a move. One of the youths was surrounded by a group of people and was drinking tea. When he saw Lin Yu attack, he frowned. This person can only be befriended, not offended. The people behind him all lowered their heads and agreed. It was already night in Night King City. In the dark of the night, the streets were lit with colorful flames that were extremely dazzling. The streets were also very lively because of the upcoming auction. Lin Yu passed by a stall and saw that Shan was attracted by a stall. She pulled him over. Luo Xue also saw a bracelet on the stall and said, "It's so beautiful." Lin Yu smiled and saw that she picked up the cheapest bracelet. It seemed that this woman was used to frugality. This lady has good taste. This bracelet is good and cheap. It's only 300 glory baht. Luo Xue nodded, but she knew that now that she had left Flying Cloud Trade Association, she had no more glory baht income. It was better to be frugal. She immediately put it down. Lin Yu shrugged and didn't comment. Suddenly, he saw something else on the stall. It was also a bracelet, but it wasn't the white jade bracelet that Luo Xue picked up. It was an iron bracelet, but it was embedded with a small black stone. "I want this," Lin Yu said lightly. The vendor pointed at the bracelet and smiled. "Customer, you have good taste. That's the most expensive bracelet in our shop." "How much?" Lin Yu was too lazy to care about what these people were thinking. 3,000 glory baht. The vendor grinned. Luo Xue immediately said, "Are you cheating people?" She tried to persuade Lin Yu, but Lin Yu had already thrown out a pile of glory baht. "I'm too lazy to count." "You count it yourself," Lin Yu said lightly. He picked up the black bracelet and looked at it. Not bad. The vendor smiled happily. There were close to 10,000 glory baht here. He didn't even want to count it and directly put it into his storage ring, afraid that Lin Yu would go back on his word. Customer, you're straightforward. Do you want to look at something else? No need. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Luo Shui said with a pained expression, Young master, you've given too much. Lin Yu shrugged noncommittally. He just felt that his time was more precious. It's a very beautiful bracelet. At this moment, a small empty space appeared beside the stall. 7 or 8 samsara experts walked over. The ones leading them were Ming Yu Yi and Ling Feng. Ming Yu, do you like that bracelet? Ling Feng asked. He didn't care if the bracelet was in Lin Yu's hands. As long as Ming Yu Yi liked it, he could snatch it away. Ming Yu Yi smiled at Lin Yu. I like it very much. I wonder if young Master Lin is willing to part with it. Everyone looked at Lin Yu. They all thought that he would give the bracelet to Ming Yu Yi. Ming Yu Yi was the only daughter of Night King City's Lord Wushang. If he could gain Ming Yu Ye's favor and become the successor of Night King City, it would be a huge gain. Ling Feng narrowed his eyes. He was unwilling. Why did Ming Yu Yi not look at him the entire time? Now that she saw Lin Yu, she took the initiative to ask him for something? Wasn't this giving Lin Yu a chance to flatter her? But at this moment, everyone saw Lin Yu grabbing Luo Shui-Yi's hand. While Luo Shui-Yi was in a daze, he slowly put the bracelet on her wrist. Lin Yu smiled faintly. It's very beautiful. Luo Shui-Yi's face turned red. Young master. Shan Er also added, Sister Luo looks really good wearing it. This scene caused everyone to look at Ming Yu Yi. Is he not giving face to Miss Yi? It's over. He missed such a good opportunity. If it was me, I would give all the bracelets in my stall to Miss Yi. My life would be better in the future. The people who were watching the show started to discuss. They all felt that Lin Yu had done something stupid. Ming Yu Ye's face turned cold. She turned around and wanted to leave. But Ling Feng said sternly, How dare you? Everything in Night King City belongs to Ming Yu. You brat, you don't want to give face? Lin Yu laughed in his heart. He purposely didn't give face to Ming Yu Yi. The worse he treated her, the easier it would be for this arrogant woman to take the bait. Ling Feng and the others stared at him. Lin Yu shrugged and said calmly, Isn't this mine? Chapter 40. When the peddler saw this, he, who had been in the pugilistic world for many years, immediately sensed that a storm was coming. He immediately packed up his things and left, leaving an empty stall. Your item. I want to buy your item now. Are you selling it? Ling Feng pointed at the black bracelet in Luo Shui-Yi's hand. The latter was so frightened that she shrank back in fear. To Luo Shui-Yi, people like Ling Feng from Heaven Ascension Palace were as high as Lei Zong. When Ling Feng saw Lin Yu's nonchalant look, he suddenly recalled how Lei Zong died at the city gate. He couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. There should be an accident at the city gate. It might not be him. Ling Feng narrowed his eyes. Although the cowardly people from Flying Cloud Trade Union pointed out that it was Lin Yu, he still didn't believe that someone could directly reach 20,000 feet of potential light. Ling Feng waved his hand, and a stream of light flashed in his storage ring. A small hill of glory bot appeared between the two of them. This is 100,000 glory bot. I want to buy your bracelet. Everyone gasped. Even Luo Shui-Yi didn't expect this. She thought that Lin Yu had just lost money to the peddler. But when he turned around, this ordinary-looking black iron bracelet was actually worth 100,000 glory bot. Wouldn't that be 10 times the profit? Young Master Lin. Luo Shui-Yi wanted Lin Yu to agree. It would be great to earn money. But Lin Yu just smiled. That's too little. I'm not selling. The people who were watching the show were stunned again. Is this person crazy? He's not giving face to Miss Yi and young Master Ling? He's obviously giving him a way out. Although I don't know why young Master Ling seems to be afraid of him, if he doesn't do it now, he'll have a hard time later. Who is Heaven Ascension Palace? I've never seen this kid before. It seems like he's someone who hasn't seen the world and doesn't know his limit. Ling Feng's face was gloomy. Yi Mingyu, who was about to leave, also stopped in her tracks. She looked at Lin Yu in confusion. The bracelet was just an ordinary item, and it was not beautiful. However, Yi Mingyu said that she liked it because she wanted to see if Lin Yu would treat her the same way as he did in the reception hall. In the end, Yi Mingyu was once again slapped in the face by Lin Yu. This feeling was very unpleasant. However, Ling Feng was even more unhappy now. Why? You think it's not enough? What about now? With a loud boom, the Yaobu Hill expanded several times in size, forcing the people around it to take a few steps back. This, my God, this is at least 500,000 glorybot, right? Are you blind? There's at least 1,000,000 here. The peddler ran far away to hide, but now that he saw the sparkling Yao Yao mountain, he wanted to die. It can't be true. It can't be true. My broken bracelet is worth so much money. He suddenly felt that the 10,000 dazzling bot he had received from Lin Yu was no longer as valuable. That's enough. I'm afraid you've never seen anything like this in your entire life, Ling Feng said coldly. However, Lin Yu still shrugged his shoulders. It's too little. Luo Xue was shocked once again. She felt that the black bracelet in her hand was even more valuable. Ling Feng felt that he had lost face. Yi Mingyu had already noticed his actions. If he couldn't even get a bracelet, he wouldn't have the face to curry favor with Yi Mingyu anymore. Then how much do you want to sell it for? Ling Feng regretted trying to reason with Lin Yu. However, Lin Yu smiled faintly. 100 million. Hiss. When he said that, everyone thought that they had heard wrong. 100 million? Is this guy crazy? I think he's crazy. 100 million is enough to buy all the stalls in Night King City. Yeah, if I had 100 million, I would go to the auction. Why would I buy your broken bracelet here? Ling Feng's face twitched. Are you messing with me? However, Lin Yu took Luo Xue and turned to leave. He waved his hand and said, If you can't afford it, then forget it. Ling Feng's face was dark. He could afford 100 million, but that was what his father wanted him to use in the auction. If he took it out for Yi Mingyu, wouldn't he be beaten half to death by his father? Damn it, stop right there. Ling Feng felt more and more embarrassed. Just as he was about to stop Lin Yu, Yi Mingyu stopped him. Enough, the auction is about to start. Yi Mingyu's cold gaze landed on Lin Yu. She thought to herself, there's nothing that I can't get if I want it. Young master, why didn't you sell the bracelet? It's worth 1 million. Luo Xue couldn't help but ask. She felt that it was a pity for Lin Yu. Shaner smiled. Sister Luo, didn't you say that you didn't want to sell it? Big brother has already given it to you. Lin Yu shrugged and didn't comment. She's right. Luo Xue's heart was bleeding. What, did I miss out on 1 million? Lin Yu ignored her and said, Wear it well, it's not bad. Luo Xue was still immersed in the 1 million. That was the income of the Flying Cloud merchant ship for a few years. The three of them arrived at the entrance of the auction and saw that many people had already entered. Lin Yu and the others were stopped by the guard. Invitation. Lin Yu's storage ring flashed, and he took out the invitation that Qin Ji gave him. This invitation has expired. Hearing the guard's words, Luo Xue frowned. There's an expiration date for the invitation? The guard said coldly, If we say there is, then there is. Luo Xue didn't know what to do. Young master, then we. Lin Yu shrugged and didn't comment. Since the auction is stopping us, then we won't go in. Although Lin Yu didn't go in, he didn't leave either. If there's nothing else, then get lost. The guard frowned. Lin Yu smiled. Are you afraid that your master will see us here? Luo Xue suddenly understood. Night King City has always been trustworthy. Young master's invitation has no problem. These people must have taken someone's money and are stopping us. Lin Yu suddenly realized that Luo Xue wasn't good in other aspects, but she wasn't stupid. You'll have some eyesight. Luo Xue smiled shyly. Young master, I've been the president for so many years. I've worked with various merchant ships, so I naturally know some useful tricks. Shan'er asked, who's stopping us from going in? Lin Yu raised his brows at Luo Xue. The latter knew that Lin Yu wanted to test her and said, I'm guessing it's Ling Feng. Only Lingtian Palace has a good relationship with Night King City. It's said that Ling Feng has pursued Miss Yi Mingyue for many years, but Miss Yi Mingyue doesn't even care about him. Luo Xue continued. Actually, many people know that Ling Feng doesn't only want the beauty, but also the Night King City behind her. If he becomes Yi Mingyue's man, then he'll be the future master of Night King City. After all, Jun Wushang is already a strong person from the previous era. Lin Yu nodded. Luo Xue continued, but the more Ling Feng targets the men who get close to Yi Mingyue, the more it shows that he's a narrow-minded person. Even if he can stop us once Yi Mingyue finds out, sigh, not to mention Miss Yi, even I don't like such a narrow-minded man. Chapter 41. Lin Yu teased, looks like your previous husband was quite magnanimous. Luo Xue's eyes were a little disappointed. I don't know if he was magnanimous or not. The time I spent with my husband was too short. You haven't even given him your body. Lin Yu chuckled. Luo Xue's face suddenly flushed red, and even her neck felt hot. Young master, how did you know? Lin Yu shrugged and did not comment. How can a woman who has tasted a man be like you, calling him young master every day? Lin Yu naturally did not tell the truth. In those 100,000 years, his ability to judge people, be it top experts or women, could no longer hide from his eyes. Luo Xue lowered her head. The conversation with Lin Yu made her feel guilty. She suddenly felt that she had let down her deceased husband. Big brother is so amazing. Shan'er laughed and leaned against Lin Yu's leg, squatting down. I'm too tired. We've been walking for a long time. Lin Yu was also a little helpless. But they won't let us in, so we can only wait. Luo Xue changed the topic. What are you waiting for, young master? Waiting for someone who can let us in. He patted Shan'er's little head. Don't worry, they'll be here soon. As soon as he said that, he saw a group of people walking in the air from afar. Lin Yu smiled faintly. They're here. Luo Xue looked over and gasped. Young master, are you waiting for people from Azure Sky Supreme Pure Palace? Lin Yu nodded. That's a top sect in the North Star Field. It's even more powerful than Lightning Cloud Sect and Heaven Ascension Palace. It's said that Azure Sky Supreme Pure Palace was once the sect of one of the previous 3 emperors. Luo Xue said in a daze, her tone filled with awe. Lin Yu said faintly, the previous 3 emperors? You should be talking about the Ink Dragon Emperor Qin Lu. He did come from Azure Sky Supreme Pure Palace and also obtained some good fortune there. Qin Lu, Luo Xue muttered. She had never heard of the real names of the 3 sovereigns. However, the fact that Lin Yu could casually say the real names of the 3 sovereigns made Luo Xue feel that this young master was not simple at all. Although Lin Yu didn't take the initiative to take her in, he took her with him, which made Luo Xue feel very safe. At least after leaving the Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yu gave her a place to stay. Seeing the arrival of the people from Blue Sky Supreme Pure Palace, the auction's guards immediately ran out respectfully. Several people separated to 2 sides, bowing and saluting at the same time. Welcome, young Master Wu Nian. Among the group of people from Shangqing Palace, the youth at the front was dressed in white. His face did not have the masculinity of a man. Instead, he had the delicate contours of a woman. If it wasn't for the fact that he was dressed like a man, he might have been mistaken for a stunning beauty. Thoughtless, go in. With 4 Transcendent Realm experts by his side, Qin Wunyan nodded. Suddenly, he saw Lin Yu at the side. Is it the man from the inn? Qin Wunyan was surprised. Why would such an expert stand outside with a look of being rejected? What's wrong? Asked a middle-aged man behind Qin Wunyan. Wait for me, Qin Wunyan said. He did not let the others follow him. Instead, he went straight to Lin Yu alone and saluted. I'm Qin Wunyan. We should have met before. Lin Yu smiled. If it were someone else, he might be too lazy to pay attention. But this Qin Wunyan was different. Lin Yu also saluted and said, My name is Lin Yu. When we were at the inn, I have to thank young Master Wunyan for suppressing the situation. Otherwise, the inn would inevitably be in a mess if a few people died. Qin Wunyan didn't know why, but when he saw Lin Yu, he felt that this person was a worthy friend. Moreover, the other party's gestures gave him a sense of oppression. That was the attraction of the strong to the strong. Qin Wunyan smiled helplessly. Brother Lin's combat strength is comparable to a Transcendent Realm expert. You have such strength at such a young age. You're flattering me by saying that I helped you. Luo Xue was stunned. This was one of the most famous people in the North Star Field. Legend had it that Qin Wunyan started cultivating at the age of 3 and stepped into the mortal realm in one day. When he was 7, he broke through to the spirit realm. When he was 13, he was already a Samsara realm expert. Now, his cultivation was definitely in the Transcendent Realm. Qin Wunyan looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. He was slightly older than Lin Yu, but he was already a famous figure at a young age. Many people in the North Star Field had heard of his name. They all knew that if he was given a few more years, he might be able to rise to the top of the North Star Field. The descendant of the Ink Dragon Emperor was just that terrifying. But now, the most shocked people were not Luo Xue, but the guards at the entrance of the auction. Not only were they shocked, but they were even more horrified. What's going on? Young Master Wunyan is speaking to him personally? It's over. Didn't young Master Ling say that he's just someone from a remote village, and that we won't have any problems stopping him? To be able to chat and laugh with young Master Wunyan, he can only be an important figure on the same level. We've been tricked by young Master Ling this time. Hurry up and apologize. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Qin Wunyan continued, The auction is about to begin. Brother Lin, are you not going in? Lin Yu shrugged, a helpless expression on his face. I wanted to go in, but I was stopped. Impudent. Qin Wunyan's expression instantly changed. The guard who had stopped Lin Yu was just about to apologize, but what he encountered was young Master Wunyan's fury. Qin Wunyan was enraged, and the 4 Transcendent Realm experts accompanying him stepped out at the same time. Their figures shifted in front of the guard, and their auras crashed down with a boom. The 4 of them did not move at all. They simply stood in front of the guard, but the ground where they stood had already shattered, and cracks spread out toward the guards. Spare us! Young Master Wunyan, spare us! The guards all knelt down. How could they not understand what had happened? They had kicked an iron plate. We didn't mean to offend young Master Lin. It's young Master Ling who asked us to stop you. Now that they had clearly offended Qin Wunyan, they knew that rather than Qin Wunyan asking, it was better to confess directly. That bastard Ling Feng? Qin Wunyan squinted his eyes slightly and said to Lin Yu, Brother Lin, let's go in. Lin Yu smiled, Thank you, Brother Qin. When they passed by the guards, Qin Wunyan and Lin Yu naturally did not do anything. However, the moment the 4 Transcendent Realm experts walked past, the Transcendent Realm's 9 sons' glorious chi shook. When they walked further away, all the guards only felt a sweetness in their throats, and a large mouthful of blood was forcefully spurted out. When they turned around, the last person had already entered the auction. This kind of injury was not external, and Azure Sky Pure Palace did it without leaving any traces. No one even saw the attack, giving the people of Night King City a chance to investigate. Damn, it's all because of that bastard Ling Feng. The people of Azure Sky Pure Palace are tyrannical. This time we don't say any more. This injury won't be healed in 10 years. I hate Ling Feng. Inside the auction house was a huge ring-shaped venue. Taking a closer look, the floor of the auction hall was actually covered in dense runes. Brother Lin, what kind of research do you have on Night King City's auction house? Qin Wunyan asked with a smile, looking like an expert sparring. Chapter 42. Seeing this, Luo Xue and the others could only bite the bullet and follow without saying a word. Lin Yu smiled faintly. I want to hear Brother Qin's opinion first. Qin Wunyan didn't show any displeasure, although the 4 transcendent experts behind him already laughed in their hearts when they heard Lin Yu throwing the question back to Qin Wunyan. They thought that Lin Yu asked because he couldn't withstand Qin Wunyan's test. He wasn't some unfathomable expert. Qin Wunyan said, "This place is divided into 5 big steps. Each step is 5 feet long." He pointed to the ground. Brother Lin, look at this step. When we walk on it, we can feel a burning sensation because the runes on this step are the fire array of array. The 4 people behind him nodded. Their feelings were indeed as Qin Wunyan said. At this moment, when they thought about it carefully, they felt that the runes on the ground actually contained an array. The steps below are wood, water, and earth steps. We have already walked past the steps inscribed with gold array. The entire place is surrounded by the 5 elements array of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Once it is activated, no one under the unyielding realm can walk out. Above the 9 yang transcendent realm, the yang aura reached the extreme, and the opposite was the yin aura. It was the 9 yin aura. The 9 yin aura was invincible. It had both offense and defense. It was the 9 yin unyielding realm. Everyone was even more enlightened at this moment. Even Luo Xue couldn't help but look at Qin Wunyan with admiration. It turned out that there was a lot of things on the ground. If Qin Wunyan didn't explain it, they might not see it in this lifetime. Young Master's eyesight is getting better and better. Yes, in a few days, the 4 of us together may not be Young Master's opponent. The 4 transcendent experts behind Qin Wunyan kept praising. If these people were in the Hongmeng continent, they would be respected by thousands of people. But now they were obedient behind Qin Wunyan. It could be seen that Azure Sky Supreme Palace valued this young Master Wunyan. But Big Brother is more powerful. Shan suddenly objected. Luo Xue, who was holding Shan hand, trembled. Shan don't talk nonsense. Shan put her hands on her waist. Sister Luo, do you also think that he's better than Big Brother? Luo Xue was a little embarrassed. Shan was pointing at Qin Wunyan, so she could only pat Shan-er's head. Big Brother is of course the best. Qin Wunyan smiled and continued to walk as he said, Brother Lin should have an even more powerful insight? The 4 transcendents sized up Lin Yu with disbelief. Lin Yu faintly smiled. I wouldn't dare say that I have an opinion. All I can see is that this array formation is full of flaws. Once it is activated, it can only keep me here for 3 breaths of time. Qin Wunyan's expression changed. The 4 people behind him also stared at Lin Yu in astonishment. But before they could hear the next sentence, a voice interrupted the conversation between Lin Yu and Qin Wunyan. Impudent! Night King City has been in the northern starfield for many years. The array here was personally set up by Night King Jun Wushang. Who do you think you are to spout nonsense? The person who spoke wasn't from Jade Sky Supreme Pure Palace. Instead, it was from Heaven Ascension Hall, who was sitting in the middle of the Earth array. Ling Feng walked over with his hands behind his back. When Lin Yu came in, he was already cursing the trash outside for not stopping him. But when he saw Qin Wunyan come in with him, Ling Feng didn't dare to personally offend Lin Yu. Jade Sky Supreme Pure Palace wasn't something his Heaven Ascension Hall could deal with. But now, Yi Mingyue and the others were also sitting in the front. He heard Lin Yu say that the array was flawed. Although he didn't understand array formations, how could he not show it? It's this bad guy again. Shan'er pouted. Luo Shui hugged her and shushed her. Qin Wunyan frowned. Lin Yu's words were too sharp. But if they were true, Qin Wunyan was more interested to know if this array formation really had a flaw. But now that their discussion was interrupted by Ling Feng, Qin Wunyan was very unhappy. "Young Master Ling, do you understand array formations?" asked Qin Wunyan. Without waiting for Lin Yu to make a move, Qin Wunyan's words had already stunned Ling Feng there. Ling Feng looked embarrassed. "I'm not as proficient in array formations as young Master Wunyan, but this Lin Yu, who is he? How dare he say that this auction's array is flawed?" Qin Wunyan smiled coldly. "Since you don't understand, speak less. You." Ling Feng's face sank. He didn't dare to offend Qin Wunyan. Instead, he stared at Lin Yu. What an embroidered pillow. Nice to look at but useless. You only know how to hide behind others. He naturally didn't dare to offend Qin Wunyan, but in his opinion, Lin Yu was just a soft persimmon. But if it wasn't for the accident at the city gate, he would have died under Lei Zong's potential light. Qin Wunyan frowned. The four people behind him had already taken a step forward at the same time. The transcendent realm's fourfold pressure instantly descended. Ling Feng's pupils dilated, and he quickly took a step back. Seeing this, the two guardians behind him had to block in front of Ling Feng. As soon as the two appeared, they felt their bodies moving without wind. They didn't even have time to make a move, and their blood was already boiling. "Only you have guardians," Ling Feng said angrily. He had already lost his rationality. He never thought that Lin Yu wasn't humiliated by him, but provoked Qin Wunyan instead. After Ling Feng's guardians heard this, they also knew their own difficulties. They cursed in their hearts. Those were transcendent realm experts from Azure Sky's Supreme Palace. Moreover, there were 4 of them. Can you not anger them? Sure enough, the moment Ling Feng's voice fell, the 4 guardians took another step forward at the same time. With a loud bang, the 2 transcendent realm experts in front spurted out blood. They took 3 or 4 steps back in succession, and directly retreated to Ling Feng's side. At that moment, Ling Feng only felt the dazzling light in front of him. It was as if 4 huge suns had descended on the earth and landed directly in front of the mortals. With a puff, Ling Feng's entire body flew out. "You!" His face was ferocious. "Azure Sky Supreme Palace, you've gone too far." Qin Wunyan said calmly, "Remember in the future. Children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking." Interesting. Young Master Ling, it seems like you've suffered a great loss today. Yeah, brother Ling Feng. The auction hasn't started yet. Your goddess Ming Yu has also gone backstage to prepare. Why are you making a fool of yourself here after she left? Suddenly, 2 people walked in front of him. It was a man and a woman. The woman spoke, and her words were filled with sarcasm. The man also looked down at Ling Feng, who was lying on the ground, and verbally stepped on him. Ling Feng was helped up by someone. He said angrily, I'll remember today's grudge. Dao Zhang Balian. Since Azure Sky Supreme Palace humiliated me today, they'll humiliate you in the future." The woman frowned. "Is my great empress sect someone that anyone can bully?" Dao also sneered. "My flying immortal sect won't be humiliated like you. Ling Feng, you should take care of yourself." The newcomers were dressed elegantly. They were from the other 2 major sects in the North Territory, the Great Empress sect and the Flying Immortal sect. Behind Zhang Balian and Dao, there were also 5 Transcendent Realm experts accompanying them. Chapter 43. Today's auction was enough to show the foundations of the various sects in the North Starfield. Compared to the Forgotten Immortal sect, they were much stronger. This was also the reason why Lin Yu wanted to nurture a few powerful figures in the Forgotten Immortal sect. In Hongmeng alone, the Forgotten Immortal sect had lost to the Sea of Demons and Crimson Heaven Pavilion too much. "Brother Lin, don't bother with troublesome people," said Qin Wunyan. Lin Yu shrugged and saw Ling Feng angrily return to his seat. Under Qin Wunyan's guidance, he also found the seat reserved for Azure Sky Shangqing Palace in Night King City. This seat was relatively close to the front. It was on par with the Flying Immortal sect, Sky Ascension Palace, and Great Empress sect. "Brother Lin, the discussion just now hasn't ended?" Qin Wunyan really wanted to know how the so-called Night King City's most powerful array was full of flaws. The others disagreed with Lin Yu's words, especially the 4 Transcendent Realm experts behind, as well as Ling Feng and the others. They only felt that Lin Yu was playing to the gallery. Lin Yu smiled faintly. "Now is not the time. How about this? Tomorrow, Jun Wushang will personally come to the guest hall to find me. When that time comes, Brother Qin will come too. Let's discuss together." In the past 100,000 years, he admired Qin Wunyan. Qin Wunyan wore white because he was obsessed with cleanliness. However, he didn't care about background when making friends. Instead, he liked to make friends with strange people. Especially in his opinion, these strange people often liked to hide their identity, unlike Ling Feng and the others who were exaggerated. Therefore, Qin Wunyan stayed in a simple inn at the beginning. He also saw the conflict between the 7 Invincible sect and the Flying Cloud Commerce. Until Lin Yu appeared, he found a strange person. In Lin Yu's eyes, Qin Wunyan was also a strange person. Like Long Lin, they had different hobbies, extreme hobbies. Qin Wunyan's hobby was to study various arrays. According to Lin Yu's judgment, Qin Wunyan's attainment in arrays might be above the Ink Dragon Emperor Qin Lu in the future. Okay, it's a deal. Although he couldn't get an answer for the time being, since Lin Yu said it, Qin Wunyan agreed. The excitement on his face was obvious. The Tao of formations and strange friends were Qin Wunyan's only joy. Therefore, even if he heard that Jun Wushang had personally come to the guest hall to look for Lin Yu, it would not arouse Qin Wunyan's interest. On the contrary, the 4 people behind Luo Shui and Qin Wunyan were all shocked. "This young master, the Jun Wushang you speak of, is it the Night King?" asked one of the Transcendent Realm experts. "There's no one else in Night King City who dares to call himself Supreme Monarch." That person sucked in a breath of air. They knew very well who Jun Wushang was. That was the Night King, someone who dared to call himself the King of the Northern Territory Starfield. He was someone they couldn't even fawn over. But now, such a person, apart from looking handsome and dashing, there was nothing special about this young man. How could Jun Wushang personally pay a visit to him? "Young Master Lin, can we wait tomorrow?" When Qin Wunyan heard the people behind him talking, he immediately interrupted. "I'll go alone." He didn't want to be disturbed by others talking about arrays with Lin Yu. When necessary, even Jun Wushang couldn't do it. Lin Yu was too lazy to care about others. The people behind Qin Wunyan didn't dare to speak anymore. Luo Shui sat upright beside Lin Yu, holding Shan in her arms. Shan said, "Big brother, is there something fun coming out later?" Lin Yu shook his head. "There are very few fun things in this world." As soon as these words came out, the others didn't care, but Qin Wunyan's heart tightened. That was what he thought as well. I didn't see wrongly. Brother Lin is a rare interesting person in this world. Lin Yu is just looking for interesting things. In the middle of the auction, the center point surrounded by 5 arrays was an auction stage suspended in midair. On the auction stage, a dragon's head looked down, facing the auction stage. The dragon's head seemed to be dead, but it always emitted a heartbeat sound, giving people a feeling that it would come alive at any time. The dragon's head was suspended in midair, just like the auction stage. At this moment, the space above the dragon's head suddenly shattered. The bustling auction instantly quietened down. Yi Mingyue, who was wearing a tight-fitting brocade, landed gracefully. Lin Yu smiled faintly. This is the third set of clothes Yi Mingyue changed into today, right? These young ladies of the top-tier sex were very particular about their manners. It couldn't be helped. Yi Mingyue landed gracefully. As soon as she appeared, not only did Ling Feng and the others stare, but even the hundreds of North Territory's elite disciples below the stage started having perverted thoughts. She's too beautiful. That figure, that willowy waist, and those long legs. Don't even think about it. Even Ling Feng couldn't get a woman like her. Us, who came from small sex, would never be able to get her. Yi Mingyue has the capital to reject all the men in the North Territory. She's so beautiful, and she's the only daughter of the Night King Jun Wushang. She's not just beautiful. Yi Mingyue is already in the half-step transcendent realm. She's only one step away from entering the transcendent realm. She's even stronger than Ling Feng. This is also the reason why she doesn't like Ling Feng. Isn't that so? Which woman would marry a man who's weaker than her? In this world, the strong are respected. I think only Qin Wunyan from the Azure Sky Supreme Palace is worthy of her. Below, Ling Feng stared at Yi Mingyue without blinking. Yi Mingyue smiled gently. She first cupped her fists to show her etiquette. Then, she slowly said, "My father has yet to come out of seclusion. He's unable to host the auction this time. I can only let Mingyue embarrass herself. Please be magnanimous and bid more. Don't let Mingyue return empty-handed." Huff. Cheers immediately sounded from below. "Don't worry, Miss Yi. I've brought all my assets today. I'll definitely satisfy you." "So what if you bring your assets? I've even brought my dowry. Miss Yi, you have to be responsible for me." Cheers sounded from below the stage. Ling Feng's face was gloomy. He said to the people behind him, "Investigate the background of those who spoke rudely. If you can kill them, kill them." The two protectors behind him cursed in their hearts. Haven't they embarrassed themselves enough today? This young master is causing trouble every day just for a woman. Ling Feng didn't care about that. If he didn't vent the anger he received from Lin Yu today, it would be worse than death. He Dao sneered, "Young Master Ling, don't waste your time. I think Yi Mingyue doesn't like you." "Stop talking nonsense. Do you think she likes you?" Ling Feng said angrily. He Dao knew that Yi Mingyue was his weakness. He continued, "Haven't you heard? Yi Mingyue personally visited the young man in the guest hall today, because that young man might be related to the 20,000 feet potential fluctuation during the day." Ling Feng's face was gloomy. "I don't need you to say this." Of course, he knew it himself. Yi Mingyue had never taken the initiative to look for a man. This was the first time she took the initiative to look for a man. Ling Feng had been brooding over this and viewed Lin Yu as a person he must kill. Chapter 44. He Dao loved to bewitch people. He was short and his face was skinny. He glanced at Ling Feng and said with a smile that was not a smile, "I think Yi Mingyue likes men with high potential. I've asked around. That youth is called Lin Yu. He's only in his teens, even younger than you." "Lin Yu." Ling Feng narrowed his eyes. "I didn't expect you to be more well-informed than me." He Dao smiled. "Don't forget what the Flying Celestial sect does. All the information in the north comes from us." Ling Feng said, "Then where did he come from?" He Dao's face twitched. "I haven't found out yet." "You!" Ling Feng scolded in his heart. Apart from adding insult to injury, these scoundrel friends of his were completely useless. He Dao grinned. "Don't be angry. It's fine if he didn't come today. Now that he's here, this is a competition of wealth. Who cares if he really has 20,000 feet of potential? With your wealth, do you think you can't beat him?" Ling Feng touched his storage ring and said, "That makes sense." Zhang Balian smiled in disdain. She stared at the beautiful Yi Mingyue. "What's so good about this bitch? Why are these stupid men fighting over her? She could hear the endless cheers from below. It was ear-piercing. He Dao smiled again. You don't understand. The more unobtainable a woman is, the more precious she is. Look at you. Zhang Balian raged. I'm also a woman you can't get. He Dao gulped. Yes, yes. On the stage, Yi Mingyu waved her hand. A beam of light fell from the dragon's mouth onto the stage. A black metal piece slowly floated down from the beam. Yi Mingyu said, "The first treasure is this metal piece." As her voice faded, everyone's gazes landed on the light pillar. They saw that the iron plate was only the size of a palm, and there were red marks on it. It looked like an ordinary piece of rusty iron. Miss Yi, did you take the wrong one? How can this be called a treasure? That's right. We have a lot of broken swords in our sect. If you don't mind, I can give you a few hundred. They're better than this. Qin Wunyan smiled and said to Lin Yu beside him, Brother Lin, do you think there's a mystery behind this? Lin Yu shrugged. Just so. 3 million at most. The others were stunned. Luo Shui asked, Young master, why did you say it's ordinary but say it's 3 million? Qin Wunyan didn't ask any more questions. He only smiled knowingly at Lin Yu and didn't say anything. Yi Mingyue did not explain further and continued to announce, the starting price is 100,000 glory bot. The crowd below was still confused, but they heard the first bid. 500,000. The source of the voice was Ling Feng. Mingyue, no matter what, I will support you. Ling Feng shouted. Idiot, this wastrel. If I were his father, I would regret not being safe back then. Ling Feng gritted his teeth. What do you know? Yi Mingyue's disgust for Ling Feng increased when she saw that the first treasure had already been revealed. 150. The crowd looked over. It was from the direction of Azure Sky Supreme Pure Palace. He Dao and the others frowned. Why is Qin Wunyan in the mood to do something stupid today? But when they looked over, they saw that it wasn't Qin Wunyan or anyone from Azure Sky Supreme Pure Palace who raised her hand. It was Luo Shui. Young master, do you really want to buy it? Luo Shui's throat was dry. It was already an eye-opener for her to be able to come here. But now, Lin Yu wanted her to help him bid. With this move, everyone looked over. It was Luo Shui's first time being stared at by so many famous people. She was instantly frightened. I can't help it. I'm afraid my hand will be sore. Lin Yu leaned his left hand on the chair and leaned against the side of his face. Yi Mingyue looked down. She didn't care about Luo Shui's bid, but the black bracelet in her hand when she raised her hand. It was an inconspicuous item, but when she wanted it, she realized that it was being worn by someone else. This made Yi Mingyue feel very uncomfortable. 150,000 glory bot going once. Yi Mingyue came back to her senses and continued to host. Ling Feng looked at Luo Shui and said, This is Lin Yu trying to compete with me in terms of wealth. He Dao couldn't help but laugh. Young Master Ling, it seems that even if you don't find trouble with him now, he will find trouble with you. Ling Feng was furious. He raised his hand and said, 2 million. Luo Shui was so frightened that she immediately put her hand down. But her hand was still in midair when Lin Yu raised it again. Continue to raise it. Raise it. Luo Shui was so frightened that her face turned pale. Young master, how much should I raise it? Lin Yu touched his chin and looked at Qin Wunyan. What do you think, brother Qin? Qin Wunyan smiled. Why don't we be more straightforward? That makes sense. Lin Yu said to Luo Shui, 3 million. 3 million. Luo Shui was shocked. But her voice was too loud. Because she raised her hand, it meant that she was bidding. 3 million. Ling Feng frowned. He must be crazy. Ling Feng cursed. He Dao and Zhang Balian looked at each other. The former said, It seems that young Master Ling has met a strong opponent. Zhang Balian said, No man is normal. She looked at Lin Yu carefully and licked her lip. But such a handsome man should taste good. When the crowd saw Lin Yu beside Luo Shui, they finally understood what was going on. I remember now. That person didn't give Yi Mingyue any face today. Ling Feng didn't even buy a broken bracelet with 1 million Yao baht. So he's so rich. Ling Feng has kicked an iron plate. Let's see how he can take out a few million to buy a broken bracelet. Ling Feng frowned. He wanted to bid but was stopped by the protector beside him. Forget it, young Master Ling. There will be more opportunities later. These people were not only his protectors to ensure his safety, but they were also sent by Ling Feng's father to stop him from doing anything stupid. Ling Feng calmed down and said angrily, I won't let him be in the limelight again. With that, he clenched his teeth and retracted his hand. Yi Mingyue said helplessly, 3 million Yao baht going thrice. Deal. She waved her hand helplessly. The metal plate in front of her flew towards Lin Yu. Luo Shui took the metal plate. But she didn't have that many Yao baht. Luo Shui looked at Lin Yu pleadingly. The latter swiped his storage ring and 3 million Yao baht flew out. The light pillar had a suction force. When the Yao baht entered the light pillar, it was sucked into the dragon's mouth. Luo Shui respectfully handed the metal plate to Lin Yu. What do you think, Brother Qin? Lin Yu passed it to Qin Wunyan. Qin Wunyan took the metal plate and looked at it. He nodded. The quality is good. It's a good material for heart armor. Brother Lin, it's worth it. Chapter 45. Lin Yu smiled. Brother Qin, you're the one who's letting me win. Qin Wunyan shrugged. I was just guessing how much Brother Lin could buy it for. It seems that I was right. Lin Yu smiled and put away the iron piece. Luo Shui and Shan blinked. They had no idea what Lin Yu and Qin Wunyan were talking about. They only knew that they were the kind of people who didn't lack glory baht. That was why they could spend 3 million glory baht to buy a piece of junk. They weren't the only ones who thought so. Everyone else in the auction also thought of Lin Yu as a wastrel. On the seat of honor, Yi Mingyue announced again, the second treasure. Instantly, a long sword floated down from the light pillar. Once the sword appeared, it emitted waves of sword energy even though it wasn't unsheathed. Lin Yu and Qin Wunyan looked at each other again. Brother Lin, you go first. Lin Yu smiled. 10 million, but in the hands of someone who understands swords, it's more than 10 million. Qin Wunyan smiled. I don't think many people here understand swords. Yi Mingyue continued. The burial sword sect refined a holy sword this year. Instead of saying that they refined it this year, it's better to say that they spent 30 years to perfect it this year. This sword is called Awakening Hibernation. It's 4 feet and 7 inches long. It's made of starry sky cold iron and is extremely powerful. It's a top-notch sword for sword experts. The starting price is 1 million glory baht. This time, it wasn't that piece of scrap metal. Everyone was very enthusiastic. In just 5 minutes, the price had soared to 5 million glory baht. 6 million. Ling Feng raised his hand and shouted with a calm expression. He Dao also raised his hand. 7 million. What do you mean? Good things can be obtained by anyone. On the other side, Zhang Bailian also raised her hand. 8 million. Lin Yu smiled. Brother Qin, aren't you going to make a move? Qin Wunyan looked at Lin Yu in confusion. It's obviously a defective item. Why do you want to make a move? Lin Yu heard that Ling Feng had already bid 10 million glory baht. Looks like I'm going to lose to Brother Qin. As soon as he finished speaking, he asked Luo Shui to raise her hand. Luo Shui stammered, 20 million. Her back was already drenched in sweat. Young master, why can't you get it up? Luo Shui felt strange. Lin Yu didn't raise his hand himself, but kept asking her to use the hand with the bracelet to help him bid. What was the meaning of this? Be more precise with your words. I just didn't raise my hand. Lin Yu glanced at her. Shan blinked. Big brother, what is impotence? Lin Yu didn't answer, but Luo Xue's face was already red. Luo Xue was already full of charm. Although she was married in name, she was still a virgin. This made Luo Xue have the urge to bloom. After being teased by Lin Yu 3 or 4 times today, Luo Xueyi's reaction was getting worse and worse. Lin Yu disagreed. However, when Yi Mingyue looked over again, she saw the black bracelet again. This woman, is she showing off on purpose? Yi Mingyue's cold face darkened even more. She looked at Luo Xue with killing intent and said, 20 million going once. Ling Feng was furious. It's him again. The Tao protector beside him wanted to calm him down, but Ling Feng had already raised his hand. 21 million. Qin Wunyan came to a realization. Brother Lin, are you trying to cut off a piece of meat from the Heaven Ascension Palace? Lin Yu shrugged. Brother Qin, do you think the wound is big enough? Qin Wunyan said, if a person loses his mind, he's no different from a beast. Lin Yu nodded and asked Luo Xue to shout again. 25 million. He added, the Heaven Ascension Palace doesn't have the money, so someone else raised the price. After hearing this, the rest felt that Lin Yu was too arrogant. Young man, remember to be impatient. This person openly provoked the Heaven Ascension Palace. It's unwise. At the top of the auction, there was a circular room. Xing He stood there with his hands behind his back, observing the situation below with a few others. These people were all elders of the Night King City, led by Xing He. One of them said, I heard that young man said he wanted to see the city lord. Elder Xing, what do you think he is? Xing He stroked his white beard. I've investigated, but when this person came to the Night King City, he chose a very special route. He seemed to have avoided some normal routes, so I don't know when he arrived on our planet. Xing He said with a face full of shame. The people behind him looked at each other. Someone said, this kid is very experienced. He doesn't seem like an ordinary person. Xing He glanced at him. You guys must be old and confused. How can someone who can make a 20,000-foot light pillar appear at the city gate be an ordinary person? He finally had a chance to return the words that Yi Mingyue taught him today. Seeing that the others were speechless, Xing He was very happy. He looked down and sized up Lin Yu. I still can't see through him at all. But with his calm appearance and his hidden cultivation, he's even more powerful than Qin Wunyan. He doesn't look like a young man at all. Young master, forget it. If he wants it, just give it to him. The protector next to Ling Feng pulled him back. But Ling Feng's eyes were red. How could he listen? Are you deaf? Didn't you hear him looking down on me? If I don't vent my anger today, how can I face Mingyue in the future? With that, he raised his hand resolutely. 27 million. In his eyes, this sword was worth more than 10 million. Now it was double the price. But if he could beat Lin Yu, he didn't mind losing money. Young master, are we still going to bid? Luo Xue frowned. Lin Yu smiled. Put it down. Qin Wunyan clapped. Brother Lin, do you want to speak or should I? Lin Yu sighed and said, it's better if you say it. Seeing this, Yi Mingyue announced, 27 million. Deal. Just as she finished speaking, the beam of light shone on Ling Feng. The hibernating sword also flew along the beam of light. Ling Feng held the hibernating sword in his hand. Just as he was about to draw out the 27 million Yao bought from his storage ring, he heard Qin Wunyan laugh. What a pity! It's a good sword, but it's already broken. When he said this, Ling Feng's hand paused. He immediately pulled out the hibernating sword. As soon as the sword was unsheathed, a sharp sword aura suddenly enveloped Ling Feng. Good sword. Young Master Wunyan, don't be jealous if you can't get it? Is that so? Qin Wunyan flicked his finger and a beam of Yao Qi shot out. Ling Feng subconsciously blocked with his sword. With a clang, the hibernating sword was bent by the Yao Qi. The sword directly smashed into Ling Feng's chest. Ling Feng only felt a sharp pain in his hand. Young Master Wunyan's casual move was actually so powerful? But soon, he came back to his senses. This hibernating sword couldn't even block this little attack? The others also saw something strange. Yi Mingyue narrowed her eyes and saw Ling Feng frown. Damn it, why is this sword so thin? Chapter 46. Ling Feng had a bad feeling. He swung the sword at the ground and the sword chi shot out. But it wasn't very powerful. Even the runes on the ground didn't show any resistance. Ling Feng's hands were shaking. He looked at Yi Mingyue and said, "Mingyue, what's going on?" Yi Mingyue felt that Ling Feng was stupid. Although she didn't want to answer, there were too many people looking at her. She could only say, "This sword is suitable for women. That's how it was designed." Ling Feng's face twitched. Something for women? Then why did I bid for it? I didn't ask you to bid for it. Yi Mingyue's face was very pale. This idiot. How could he be played by Lin Yu from the beginning? Not only was he stupid, but he also almost blamed the Night King City. This was crossing Yi Mingyue's bottom line. Yi Mingyue glanced at Lin Yu. She saw that he was flirting with the little beauty Luo Shui. He didn't care about the awkwardness of being questioned by Ling Feng. However, this awkwardness was intentionally or unintentionally caused by Lin Yu. After Qin Wunyan finished, he ignored Ling Feng. Now, only Ling Feng could be seen standing there in a daze. The two people beside him didn't care about him either. After all, they couldn't see the ingenuity of the sword and almost wronged the Night King City. They couldn't afford to take the blame. After Ling Feng sat down, the others returned to normal. Yi Mingyue took a deep breath. She couldn't be bothered with this kind of person. However, this person went around spreading rumors about their relationship. Apart from creating rumors, he also made the people around her believe those words. Looks like young mistress's impression of young Master Ling has dropped again. Above the auction, the elder beside Xing He said. Xing He smiled faintly. His face was full of disdain as he retorted, "What good impression? I hated him from the beginning to the end." He sighed and explained, "If it wasn't for the city lord's secluded cultivation and Ling Tian Palace's business with us, Miss would have fallen out with that guy." The people behind him realized that there was such a cause and effect. "It's been hard on Mississippi. The young miss has now taken over our Night King City. In time, I think the city lord will hand over all power to her." When Xinghe heard these words, he shook his head helplessly. The city lord might not do that. Everyone behind him was stunned. But seeing that Xinghe did not speak again, they did not continue to kiss. Below the stage, Yi Mingyue held a few more auctions, but it wasn't as intense as before. Because of these few treasures, Lin Yu didn't make a move. Ling Feng had also suffered a loss because of him and hadn't recovered yet. It wasn't until the last treasure fell from the light pillar that the crowd finally erupted into an uproar. It was a huge egg. It was 3 times Yi Mingyue's height. Once it appeared on the auction stage, it immediately caught everyone's attention. "This is it, the highlight of this auction. I heard that this thing is a gimmick created by Night King City. In fact, there is nothing inside. That's not unreasonable. It's just that we can't see through this egg." Before Yi Mingyue could say anything, she immediately sensed dozens of divine senses sweeping over and enveloping the huge egg beside her. Yi Mingyue frowned. She knew that the master below was checking the egg on his own. In the sky above, Xinghe saw this and the other elders looked at each other and attacked at the same time. In an instant, spiritual wills roared above the egg. There seemed to be no signs of battle, but only the dozens of people below knew that their spiritual wills had all been pushed back. But Xinghe and the others didn't use too much strength. The others weren't injured, but they couldn't use their spiritual wills to check the egg. "Seal, Night King City has sealed our spiritual wills. There are experts nearby, they can't let us check. I think Night King City is just trying to be mysterious. There's nothing special about this egg. There was a lot of discussion below the stage. Qin Wunyan's face was serious because he was one of the spiritual wills that had been pushed back. Brother Qin, did you see anything? Lin Yu said faintly. Qin Wunyan knew that he made a fool of himself and shook his head awkwardly. Before I even got close, I was pushed back. He glanced at the sky above the auction. He knew that the one who attacked was in that direction. It should be an elder from Night King City. I think Brother Lin already guessed it. Lin Yu smiled and nodded. Qin Wunyan felt that Lin Yu was unfathomable. Among the top experts here, he was the only one who didn't make a move. They've been waiting there for a long time. Night King City is just trying to be mysterious about this egg, Lin Yu said. Qin Wunyan frowned. Brother Lin, you also think that this egg isn't as mysterious as Night King City said? Lin Yu shook his head again. No, I think that Night King City can't see through the mystery. Qin Wunyan said. It seems that Brother Lin will bid for it. Lin Yu said. If Brother Qin wants to compete with me, I don't think I have a chance. Qin Wunyan immediately shook his head. Brother Lin saw through the clues, but I didn't. If I had a chance to check the egg, I might bid for it. But now Qin Wunyan didn't continue. Lin Yu knew that this person was a steady person. Obviously, he wouldn't bet on a random egg. The egg was too big and covered a lot of Yi Mingyu's body. People in other directions could only see a huge white egg. Even Yi Mingyu couldn't see it. The starting price for this treasure is 10 million Yao baht. Yi Mingyu said faintly. For a moment everyone gasped. 10 million? An egg that we don't know what's inside is worth 10 million? Night King City is too greedy this time. They didn't even let us check it out. Obviously, there's a problem. As soon as she said that, she heard Ling Feng raise his hand. 11 million Yao baht. It's this bootlicker again. Sigh, Lingtian Palace's reputation has been lost because of her today. Ling Feng heard the curses and his face darkened. After all, his father wanted him to bring the egg back. Ling Feng waited for a long time, but no one else bid. Yi Mingyu frowned. She knew that the price of the egg wouldn't be good today. Just as she was about to start the countdown, she heard a familiar voice, 50 million. In an instant, the entire auction house was shocked by this voice. Everyone looked over and saw that the person who spoke was Lin Yu. This time, it wasn't Luo Shui bidding, but Lin Yu himself. As if it was because he had personally bid, the price had jumped to an astronomical figure all of a sudden. 50 million Yao baht, 50 million Yao baht. Where did this Lin Yu come from? I'm afraid there are only a few dozen people in the North Starfield who can take out 50 million Yao baht. This Lin Yu isn't an ordinary person. Chapter 47. Ling Feng's face was also gloomy. He thought he had the ability to embarrass Lin Yu with his wealth. But now, why was he being slapped in the face again and again? The more he slapped, the more painful it was. 50 million, haha, then I will compete with you? Ling Feng raised his hand again. 60 million. He gritted his teeth and decided to compete with Lin Yu. But just as he finished his words, Lin Yu had already bid again. 70 million. Rumble. The crowd was boiling again. Ling Feng's eyes were bloodshot. Damn it, who is he? The two people beside him didn't dare to say a word. Originally, they had some thoughts about this last egg. Who knew that after Ling Feng bid, Lin Yu directly raised the price to 50 million. This had already made most of the people in the crowd flinch. Brother Lin's moves are indeed extraordinary, Qin Wunyan said with admiration. Lin Yu smiled faintly. I just don't want to waste Brother Qin's time. Qin Wunyan nodded in agreement. Indeed, it will be boring if we continue to tangle with them. The people brought by Qin Wunyan had completely changed their view of Lin Yu. They originally thought he was just a poor guy that their young master met on the street. But now, it seemed that Lin Yu's background wasn't something they could compare with. Lin Yu also nodded in agreement. Yi Mingyu said, 70 million, the first time. Ling Feng still wanted to raise his hand. But he heard Lin Yu shout again, 80 million. Ling Feng's hand that was still in midair was stunned. Yi Mingyu, who was on the stage, just froze on the spot. 8,000! This is the first time I see someone raising the price for himself. Crazy, crazy, what does he mean by raising the price for himself? Is he looking down on Ling Feng? Ling Feng's face was the gloomiest now. Just as he was about to raise his hand again, Lin Yu continued, 90 million. What the hell? Ling Feng's face twitched, looking extremely ugly. Yes, he's a lunatic. Young Master Ling, forget it. The Tao protector behind him also advised. Ling Feng gritted his teeth. The price father gave me hasn't reached the limit yet. He was about to raise his hand. However, he heard Lin Yu bid again. 100 million. Just as Yi Mingyue was about to bid, she swallowed her words. Sir Lin, please don't raise the price for yourself. Yi Mingyue said angrily. However, from what the others heard, the tone of her conversation with Lin Yu was very different from Ling Feng's. Ling Feng also felt that there was disgust in his tone, but he didn't use it on Lin Yu. On the contrary, he felt like he was begging for mercy. Mingyue, I can also bid. Ling Feng gritted his teeth and shouted. Yi Mingyue couldn't be bothered with him. However, she heard Lin Yu leaning back on the chair with his hands behind his head. Luo Xue, who was beside him, happened to be peeling a grape. Lin Yu opened his mouth casually. Seeing this, Luo Xue blushed and put the grape into his mouth. This scene was clearly seen by Yi Mingyue. For some reason, Yi Mingyue felt extremely uncomfortable in her heart. Because Lin Yu only cared about enjoying Luo Xue's service, and didn't even look at her. 110 million. Ling Feng said angrily. Yi Mingyue was angry that Lin Yu ignored her. Ling Feng was also angry that Yi Mingyue ignored him. In comparison, Ling Feng's position in Yi Mingyue's heart was even lower. 150 million. Lin Yu said lightly and spat out a grape seed. Luo Xue hurriedly caught it. Well done. Lin Yu smiled. Luo Xue lowered her head and hugged Shan silently as she continued peeling grape. However, she couldn't calm down. She didn't expect Lin Yu to be so rich. In fact, he didn't even care about money. Another 40 million. Damn it. Did his money fall from the sky? First, he raised the price for himself. Now, he directly bet 40 million on Ling Feng. Ling Feng's face turned pale with anger. He was like a terminally ill person. The people around him kept persuading him to stop. However, Ling Feng knew that if he lost to Lin Yu again, he wouldn't be able to raise his head for the rest of his life. 160 million. 200 million. 210 million. 300 million. You. Ling Feng put his hand on the chair and stood up. Good. Lin Yu, I'll see how you can take out 300 million today. Before Lin Yu could say anything, Qin Wunyan was already unhappy with Ling Feng's actions. Young master of Ling Tian Palace, just because you can't win, you think others don't have money? Qin Wunyan's words immediately attracted everyone's attention to Ling Feng. Indeed, the current Ling Feng was no longer the high and mighty young master Ling tonight. He was like a weakling who was beaten up by Lin Yu. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. I finally know why Lin Yu didn't buy Ling Feng's account outside. It's because he looks down on Ling Feng. I think so too. It's not that Ling Feng is too weak or that Ling Tian Palace is too weak. It's that Lin Yu is too strong. It's a kind of innate strength that ignores Ling Feng. Ling Feng was flustered and exasperated. Fine. I don't have 300 million today. However, I don't believe that a person without any background would have 300 million Yao Bat. Ling Feng pointed at Lin Yu. Yi Mingyue also took a deep breath. 300 million. Even the elders didn't expect it to reach 300 million. Indeed, Xing He and the others in the air above the auction house were so shocked that they couldn't speak. Elder Xing He, we've made a big profit tonight. That's right. In the previous auctions, there hasn't been more than tonight. It's the first time young Miss has hosted an auction and she's already won such a record price. Xing He came back to his senses. I think that kid is trying to suppress Ling Feng to win young Miss's favor. Someone behind retorted, Elder Xing He, why do I feel that kid hasn't even looked at young Miss from the beginning to the end? Xing He smiled meaningfully. This is an expert. I've watched young Miss grow up and know her weaknesses. I didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who understands young Miss so well. The people behind him were puzzled. Below, after Ling Feng finished speaking, the rest of the people looked at Lin Yu with a doubtful expression. Lin Yu, someone I've never heard of. I don't believe that he can take out 300 million Yao baht. He's trying to show off in Night King City. Once he fails, it'll be his death date. I remember that the last auction here didn't give out Yao baht. It's already been slaughtered by Night King. His sect came to Night King City to look for trouble. Even their lair was destroyed by Night King. That second-rate sect has since disappeared from the world. I think the next one is that kid. He suppressed young Master Ling for an entire night. It's enough for him to fall. Qin Wunyan didn't say anything else, because Lin Yu had already stood up. For the first time, he looked at Ling Feng. What if I have it? Chapter 48. Ling Feng frowned, so you're pissed at me? Fine, I've been pissed at you for the entire night. If you don't, I'll let you live. Bet your life. You've got guts. Lin Yu loved people like him. Then I'll take out 300 million and you'll let me live. How's that? Ling Feng's face twitched and the protector behind him laughed. What right do you have to compare yourself to our young master? Yeah, how can our young master's life be compared to yours? Lin Yu would not argue with these useless soldiers. He just looked at Ling Feng, raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, Are you afraid? Ling Feng's face was dark and cold sweat was dripping down his back. But now, not only was everyone looking at him, even Yi Mingyu was staring at him. Playing with my life? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Ling Feng stuttered. Seeing this, Lin Yu smiled. Luo Shui pulled his hand and said, Young master, isn't this too dangerous? She was also worried about Lin Yu's life. She didn't care if Lin Yu had 300 million or not. But if Lin Yu and Ling Feng bet their lives, Luo Shui was worried that Lin Yu would take the risk. She wasn't the only one who spoke up. Even Yi Mingyue, who was on the stage, frowned. She felt that Lin Yu had gone too far. She's right. If you fake the auction, you'll only lose face at most. But if you gamble with your life, as the host of this auction, I advise you to think twice before acting. Fake auction would only lose face? Everyone's heart sank when they heard Yi Mingyu's words. Then wouldn't the person who faked the auction die a horrible death? Or was Yi Mingyu just giving Lin Yu special treatment? Ling Feng immediately said, Don't worry about me, Mingyu. He looked at Yi Mingyue and saw that she was trying to persuade the two of them, but she didn't look at him at all. Instead, she was still looking at Lin Yu. Bitch. Ling Feng gritted his teeth and his eyes turned red. He pointed at Lin Yu as if he had lost all reason and said, Fine, I'll bet my life with you. Take out 300 million glory baht or die. As soon as he finished speaking, the two Dao protectors behind him stood up. Their Transcendence Realm cultivation base erupted. For a moment, a wave of glory chi swept through the auction hall. Seeing the tense situation, everyone retreated in fear. The people sitting around Lin Yu and Ling Feng also quickly stood up and retreated. However, they didn't leave the auction house. Instead, they hid in the outermost area of the Five Elements Great Array and observed the show that was about to begin. Interesting. Compared to Yao Shu, it's still not enough. I didn't expect these two to go all out. I still don't understand why Ling Feng wouldn't let go of Lin Yu, but now it seems that Ling Feng is jealous of Lin Yu. A woman. Because a woman died, these two people were disgraced. Idiot, Yi Mingyue is not an ordinary woman. Once you win her heart, it will be an achievement that you can't achieve in your lifetime. Lin Yu shrugged and looked at Yi Mingyue for the first time. He smiled and said, I can't stop now. Yi Mingyue's expression darkened. She turned around and looked at the auction hall. There, Xing He looked troubled, but he still nodded at her. Elder Xing He, does young Miss want us to help young Master Ling when necessary? The Heaven Ascension Palace has too many transactions with us. Young Miss definitely wants to kill Lin Yu. But if Lin Yu takes out 300 million glory bot, young Master Ling will be the one to die. What a joke! With our relationship with the Heaven Ascension Palace, who dares to touch Ling Feng in our auction hall? Xing He sighed. That kid did well. Heroes are short-tempered, but love is long. Young Miss is smart and capable, but in the end, he can't avoid it. The elders behind him were all confused. Elder Xing He, what do you mean? Xing He's glory chi exploded. Young Miss orders us to protect Lin Yu with our lives. Wow, what? The people behind him thought that they had heard wrongly. Below, Lin Yu hooked his finger. The huge egg floated in the air and flew to Lin Yu under everyone's gaze. No one will fight with me for this item now, Lin Yu said indifferently. Immediately, a 7-colored light shot out from his storage ring and flew into the light pillar above the auction hall. Glorybot, so many Glorybot. 10 million, 30 million, 50 million. Ling Feng's eyes widened. He didn't expect Lin Yu to take out so many Glorybot. Heaven Ascension Palace, watch carefully. In front of me, you have to keep your word. Lin Yu smiled. Qin Wunyan also smiled. Seeing that the glory bot had exceeded 200 million, he knew that he wouldn't be able to take it without blood. You. Ling Feng's face twitched. Cold sweat dripped down his back. He glanced at the two protectors beside him. No matter what, he wouldn't leave Yi Shiwen alive. Damn it. Does this kid really have 300 million glory bot? Where did he come from? Young master, we've completely lost tonight. Ling Feng's legs weren't listening to him anymore. It's okay to lose face. Escort me away later. Yes, but don't worry, young master. No one dares to touch the people of Heaven Ascension Palace. The other protector frowned and said, Do you remember how Lei Zong died? He died in front of him. Ling Feng circulated the glory chi under his feet. If that's the case, find an opportunity to kill him on the spot before he takes out 300 million glory bot. Everyone's eyes widened. 230 million. 260 million. 290 million. Lin Yu looked sideways and saw that Ling Feng was still there. However, everyone's attention was on him. They didn't notice that the two Transcendent Realm experts behind him had disappeared. Yi Mingyue's expression changed. Be careful. Oh no! Above, Xinghe sensed that something was amiss and immediately flew out. The elders behind him also instantly followed. Just when they were about to make their move, two silhouettes appeared 10 feet above Lin Yu without anyone noticing. Their transcendent realm cultivation erupted and attacked Lin Yu. Kill him! Kill him for me! Ling Feng shouted crazily. Everyone regained their senses. No one expected Ling Feng to make his move without waiting for the glory bot to be taken out. Young master, be careful! Big brother! Luo Shui and Shan shouted in fear. Lin Yu was now a distance away from them. Lin Yu purposely walked forward 20 feet before taking out the glory bot. Qin Wunyan, who was beside Luo Shui, smiled faintly. Brother Lin, you guessed it right again. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone noticed that the 4 Transcendent Realm experts behind Qin Wunyan had already disappeared. When they reappeared, they were in the 4 directions of Lin Yu. The 2 Transcendent Realm experts of Heaven Ascension Palace were shocked. When they wanted to stop, one of the people from Azure Supreme Palace smiled and said, Since you've already made your move, leave something behind. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.